at 6:30 p.m. We're going to have roll call, please.
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Bloodsworth,
Here.
Commissioner White, here, Commissioner Grunder,
Here.
Commissioner Howell.
Here. We're going to have welcome and introduction. We just want to welcome the County Commission to the City of High Springs. We're so glad that you all are here with us on tonight. We're excited to hear about what you all have going on in the county and how we can play a big part here in High Springs.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome. So let's go ahead and call the county board meeting to order. We are so pleased to be out at High Springs. It's been a while, but the year passes quickly. We've got a full agenda tonight. I think we're going to add an item at the end for informational purposes. Mr. Mayor, do you do the pledge before we get started? Does anybody need an invitation?
Pastor Byron, do you mind doing the invocation and pledge for us?
Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do that, and let's go ahead and get started.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, we just want to give you praise and thanks for yet another wonderful day, God. And God, we thank you for the City of High Springs, and we thank you for Alachua County, God. As we come together at this time, God, to discuss the business of the county and the city, God. God, I pray, God, you just be in the midst of everything said and done, God. God, we just pray, God, you just lead us and guide us on tonight, Lord. Bless them with wills and knowledge and understanding, God, that we can do what's best for this county and for this city, God. And God, we just continue to look over our public service, God. Continue to watch over them, God, protect them from any hurt, harm, and danger. In Jesus' holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor. Motion is second. So we're going to add an item at the end of the agenda, which is High Springs Rural Broadband. We had a presentation at the county meeting on Tuesday. We got some real good news we'd like to share with all the good folks up in High Springs. And so that'll be item number 6, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak to the motion on the floor about the agenda? Seeing none, back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion is unanimous. Mr. Mayor, back to you.
We're going to entertain a motion for the amended agenda.
Make a motion to approve the amended agenda as it is.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, so the first item is a county item. So the first item on the agenda is the state property tax balance issue. So we, about a month and a half ago, had the opportunity to have our staff present to the county commission what the potential impact would be for what is happening up at the state with regard to property tax reform. Obviously, there is nothing yet on the ballot, and so what we're going to talk about is actually a preparation in anticipation of the legislative special session in August. It's county specific, but we think it's really important that each of the cities understand what the county is looking at going into the budget cycle, as well as the citizens. And certainly after you see this, you may choose to do a similar type thing for the city. I know you're kind of going through some of your budget stuff as we speak now. But we've been doing this at each of the cities. It'll take us about 5 or 10 minutes. And we'll have Ms. Liederman go ahead and give the presentation. So with that, Michelle, you go ahead.
As soon as I figure out which button in the dark is the.
Far right.
I don't do right. All right, we'll figure it out. Okay, so get up during good evening, actually. What time is it? It's been a long day. Michelle Lieberman, I'm your Alachua County Manager. And I'm going to talk to you about a really fun topic today, property tax. The presentation that I have for you provides an educational overview of how property taxes work in Alachua County and why they matter. I'm not here to specifically change somebody's mind. I'm here to educate and to hopefully inspire others to educate themselves and learn for themselves And then, this also equates a lot to what municipalities deal with and how their budgets function as well. So we will start with some information about the county and its millage. So this slide represents where Alachua County falls in the state average. So we have two property taxes that are assessed on your tax bill for the county. One is the general fund millage and one is the law enforcement MSTU. Only those who are within the MSTU area, and there are some municipalities which are part of that, pay that portion. So our general fund millage is just over 7.6 mils, and that puts us at 41st in the state out of 67 counties. That's where we rank. The aggregate millage is when you include the law enforcement MSTU. So for those who pay it, an aggregate millage is based on the total county area that pays the 7.6, and then combine that with only those areas that pay the law enforcement MSTU, which is just over 3. The aggregate is 9, and that
Okay,
is
that is you have your own.
right. And that makes for those who pay the aggregate millage, we're 51 out of 67 counties. So that means that 16 counties have a higher millage rate than we do. And to remind everyone what goes on your tax bill, so first of all, millage is the rate you pay per $1,000 of value on your property. And when you look at your property bill, it is not just the county tax. So people say, why are my taxes so high? Why am I paying so much? It's not just a function of what you pay for the county. If you live within a city, you're also paying a municipal property tax. You're also paying for a school property tax. You're also paying to the water management district part of your property tax. You're paying to the library district, the children's trust, which was voted on by the community several years ago. So all those add on there. It's also a function of your property value, and that's the property appraiser's office, which is a separately elected official. So the county has actually reduced its millage rate every year for the last 9 years, and I'll be recommending another millage rate reduction to make that an even 10 coming up. But that reduction in our general fund millage rate, if your property values are still going up, you'll see an increase in the amount, even though we're lowering what we're charging. So this next slide talks about the per capita number, and this is a really important number because this shows the state average per person. And the state average per person is $942. When you divide that out, our average is $714 per person is what we collect based on our population. That is actually right in the middle of the pack. That makes us 32nd lowest in the state of Florida. And then we talk about taxable value versus assessed value. And I know many of you who are sitting up here understand a lot of these things. So you have the value that the property appraiser says your property is worth for tax purposes. And then you have the portion that the county or the city is legally allowed to tax. So in Alachua County, just over 67% of the assessed value is actually taxable. More than 32% is non-taxable, and that means that we start at a smaller number. So if you look at the state average in each county is 84% is taxable of the assessed value. So why that difference? Why are we lower than average? We have a lot of non-taxable property that is in our county. A lot of people say, well, all that conservation land you buy. Conservation land is a very small fraction of that non-taxable piece. The large majority of that comes from other state and federal agencies that occupy our county, the University of Florida being one of those, Santa Fe College as well. And when I say that, I also like to add, however, that even though UF does not pay taxes on their properties, UF provides a benefit to the community that is a different type of benefit, right? We wouldn't be Alachua County without the University of Florida and what that brings in. We have 90,000 people 7 times a year that come to home games. They spend sales tax, gas tax, tourist tax, They spend money at our restaurants and at our hotels. And then the other events that the university brings in, it's other athletics, and the students themselves, which provide a good, probably, it's about a fifth, I think, of our total population are students who reside here on a daily basis. So there are other things that affects that taxable value, things like the homestead exemption, Save Our Homes cap, which is 3% of your value per year is the maximum your property can go on. So this is just showing the trend in the taxable value versus assessed value. Taxable value grows, but revenue does not always grow at the same pace. This is just showing what your taxes would be if your value had remained static over time. If you kept, if you started out at 250,000, but your property was within the Save Our Homes cap, so it only went up that 3% a year, how your taxes would have changed because we are reducing the millage, how your taxes would have changed from year to year, from, well, that's fiscal year 20 to 26, fiscal year 20 to 26. This is the real important slide that I like to show because, you know, you've heard some things out there in the public domain that Alachua County's budget was X in 2020 and it's Y in 2026. When you account for inflation and population increase, it should have been this number. And because it wasn't, the difference between that ending number and the number we say it should be is $84 million in wasted spending. But there's a lot more to it than that. And, you know, what goes in that bottom line number year to year is really what property taxes are. So if we have 5 road projects in year 1 that don't get finished, and I have $20 million sitting aside for those 5 projects, I have to carry that money forward into year 2. Well, that $20 million adds to our bottom line number of what we have in the account. But I can't use that to go do other things. I can't say, we're gonna reduce your taxes by that 20 million because now I got $20 more million this year because I've already spent that $20 million. I just haven't paid for that yet. So those are the types of things that impact what that number is. So it's not comparing apples to apples. And also inflation, the inflation numbers. And I'm sure you've seen this as well. So the inflation numbers are based on the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index is intended to tell us inflationary rates for things like how much did your eggs cost today versus yesterday, or your milk. That's what the Consumer Price Index number is and what that inflationary number is. For government, we use the Municipal Cost Index. And these that you see up here are actual real numbers based on things that the county spent money on in these years. So in 2021, we spent $11 per ton to haul waste. In 2026, we are spending over $15. For construction costs, in 2021, we paid $421 per square foot. Today, we are paying $680 per square foot to build something. And so you see that's more than a 61% increase. Ambulances went from 227,000 in 2021 when we purchased them to the ones we purchased in 2026, 370. So almost 64%, and same with fire trucks. The fire truck that we purchased, the engine we purchased in 2022 was about $500,000. The engine we purchased in 2026 was almost $1 million. And so roads, I know that's a big topic in our community. Roads in 2021, we were paying $239,000, just over $239,000 per lane mile. Today we pay almost $500,000 per lane mile to mill and resurface a road. Those are considerable, and those are services that we need to provide the community and need to be taken into account.
So I know we'll talk about the cost of fire, but this just shows you how it's just really ballooned. We were at Newberry on Monday night looking at their new municipal building. They spent $8.9 million for that building. To build that building today, we did 13.2. And so it's just, it's while revenues aren't going up at the same rate costs are.
And this is just showing some of the things that we've heard out in the public. So, as far as like workforce and how we've increased over a period of time, what we've increased pay versus what the actual consumer price index increases have been. And, showing growth aligned with inflation and economic indicators. Our general fund. So our general fund solely of property tax, but it is the fund that has to fund a lot of services that you all know and have come to expect as part of our community. As you all are aware, we have many funds. So while our budget, the county's budget, is nearly $1 billion, everybody hears that and says, wow, we do these things. The reality is, just like I can't go buy a mortgage from a bank and take that mortgage money to go buy my groceries or pay for my gas, there are many sources of funding that counties and cities get that are cordoned off funding, that are funding that you can only use for specific purposes. If you get a grant, you can only use the grant for the purpose of the grant. If you borrow money, you can only use it for that purpose. If you receive, for building permit fees, those are subject to state law and how those fees are spent, right? You can't use your building permit fees to go fix a pothole. Impact fees are also very regulated. You can only use them for specific uses. So this general fund has to pay for a lot of things that this is the only source it can come from. Now, if you look at that, ad valorem taxes, that is what you actually pay in property tax, is just over $217 million. That is 20% of our actual budget. And what has to come out of that is a lot of things. So you'll see what else falls into that. It's the funding for our rollover projects from prior year, ambulance fees and charges for services. So that's what we subsidize, the fees that are charged out of our general fund to keep the rates reasonable. We also put in sales, or what we receive, that's what we receive. We subsidize it through our general fund payments. That isn't a different fund. Sales tax, PST, and CST go in the general funds, our state shared funding, interest, and permits, fines, and fees that we receive. So that is our total general revenue, our general fund revenue is $344 million.
Commissioners, what I want you to remember on this number is $344 million. If you take away the funding and rollover projects from the prior year, our general fund, when we think about it, is about 280 right now, 280 million. That'll be important when we get to the last slide because it'll show you what we're looking at with regards to the potential impact of a reduction of revenue.
So this is basically how that general fund money breaks down in general. 2.6 mils or 64 million goes to serving the community. Protecting the community is by far the largest amount that we have in there. That is all your public safety. That is 4.9 mils of the general fund and 3.5 mils of your municipal service taxing unit. So that is more than $186 million of general fund goes to public safety. And then improving the community is 1.6 mils or 39 million. And then governance, facilities, and facility operations is 1.6 mils or 40 million, just over 40 million. Here are the things that a lot of people don't know. What the county is required to pay for, whether we want to or not. We are handed a bill and we pay it. We don't govern it. We don't determine what prices we pay. We simply have to pay it. How many people realize that the county is responsible to pay the county's Medicaid bill? So that has to come out of the general fund. Currently, that bill is $4.7 million. So the property tax has to pay the county share of Medicaid. It also has to pay the county share of the cost to operate the Department of Juvenile Justice. That is the top line, juvenile detention. Every one of the 67 counties, and it's a little different for the fiscally constrained counties, but every one of the 67 counties pays to fund the juvenile equivalent of the Department of Corrections, a state agency. And so our share currently this year of that bill is $3.4 million. We also pay for the medical examiner's office, which is housed in Alachua County. The other counties do pay a portion based on the number of deceased that the medical examiner sees. But we are ultimately responsible, which is a state an entity appointed by the state, the health department, all state employees, but we also are responsible for many functions within the health department and housing them, and then the courts. We are obligated to pay for all of the buildings, the IT, the infrastructure, the phone systems, all of that go with the court system. The total is over $6 million. The facility alone is, the facility fees alone are over $4 million. So that includes all of court administration, all the buildings, the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, as well as guardian ad litem we are responsible for, and those are all also state employees. So this is what it looks like with the homestead exemption. So if there were a change in homestead exemption, currently it's 50,000. If it were to increase to 100,000, we would immediately lose over 22 million in revenue. And if it were to increase to 150,000, we would immediately lose nearly 40 million in revenue. And a couple of things before I kind of show you what that looks like on our budget. So when people talk about, there's going to be something on the ballot and, potentially a vote to maybe even eliminate property tax or significantly reduce either at once or over time property tax, that sounds really sexy, right? It sounds like, wow, that's a great thing. But I want you to remember that they have not stated any replacement funding source. So when we look at these things that have to be paid, how are those things going to be paid? And nobody has made that determination yet. And also, you're not going to stop paying property tax altogether, even if it was eliminated, because all of these proposals do not touch school property tax. So you will still pay tax on your property. And I will let everyone draw their own conclusions, but who is responsible for the funding of schools in general? And that is not part of this initiative. In addition, the funds, I did want to touch on this. What else is funded by property tax? And that's an important point too. Municipalities are funded by property tax. I will tell you, if you've watched any of the committee meetings that were held in Tallahassee, you will hear them say they realize that property tax reform is very likely to cause municipalities, especially the smaller municipalities, to collapse. That they won't be able to survive, especially if it's significant property tax reform. There has been, they have said that. I'm not saying anything, that I haven't heard our legislators say. And what that means if a municipality collapses is that the county then has to provide all those services to your citizens with less money to do so. And that's going to be a significant challenge. And I also know that many people are very proud of the cities that they call home, and don't want to lose that identity. So this is what would happen ultimately. This is based if we were to do a total elimination of property tax, that bottom number would be negative 24 million. But this is based on 150,000 homestead. All of the proposals so far have basically said, we're going to protect public safety and hold them harmless. So what we've done with this, we've taken out all of our obligations that we have no choice but to pay for. Medicaid, juvenile justice, property appraiser, the court systems, all of those things. And then we took out the required public safety. So law enforcement, the ambulance subsidy that comes out of this pot of money, and that leaves us with $21 million. What does $21 million have to fund? $21 million has to fund everything else that has to come out of this number. What has to come out of our general fund is not just some of these things that I pointed out, but it is also, the county is responsible to fully fund the property appraiser's office, the tax collector's office, the supervisor of election office, and a portion of the clerk of court that serves as our finance arm under state law. That is also the pot of money we have to take parks from, animal resources, all of those general functions also come out of that. I can tell you right now, I could not fund the 4 other constitutional offices fully with what's left in that pot of money. Also, that affects homestead and homesteaded properties. It does not affect commercial properties. It does not affect non-homestead properties. Somewhere, the county will have to do something to be able to pay its bills, even at what we have to fund. That becomes a real challenge in the event that there is significant property tax reform. And so I'm not here again to, to convince anybody in any specific way. I'm here to educate you on the numbers and say, please go look at those numbers yourself. You can find these on the Department of Revenue website. I believe they also have municipality information on there as well to see where the municipalities are. And I know a lot of the municipalities are looking at things like how much of that our general fund would that, what would that do to our budgets? So we do have some resources. They're in the back if anybody wants to read about them. And we'll take questions now that I've made them very.
Thank you, Manager Lieberman. So you can see, when you look at 280 million fund balance with what's required, we will obviously figure this out when we have to, but we wanted to share this information with all of you and see if you had any questions. This is the 7th time we've done this.
And I was going to say, I will say, Mr. Chair, I know you know this. There was a time that when a measure got on the ballot, government, all of us local governments were allowed to educate but not advocate. There was a change in state law a few years ago which significantly tamped down even our ability to educate. So once any measure goes on the ballot, I will not be able to come out and have this conversation with the public. So we're having this conversation now to hope that people will want to go out and do their own research and learn themselves so that when we as local governments can't speak anymore, that the public will be out there and spreading the word on what it means to them and to their communities for us.
I'm gonna let Commissioner White take it away because I know she got it.
I have a question in terms of replacement revenue sources. The county has the ability to pass different taxes, different sources of revenue. As a municipality, we don't. We have our fire assessment that we legally can put on, but it only funds part of the fire department. What are our means by which we can continue to fund our public safety? Because we can't put something like that on the tax bill.
Right, so municipalities are limited to a total of 10 mills. And then you also have special assessments available to you. Counties are limited to 10 mills for general purposes, and then an additional 10 mills for what's considered municipal services. So those are the MSTUs. Currently, we have some space for that, but that is a significant increase in taxes for everyone. I can't say what that looks like and we also have the ability of special assessments. Special assessments are limited in their function. They are very specific as to what you can use them for. So, I can't say how that impacts where you all are based on your current millage and what you could collect. A lot of things with municipalities are going to depend on, frankly, how much commercial do you have within your jurisdiction, because that's where a lot of this is going to get shifted, which also is impactful for businesses, especially small businesses, for renters, because that's a pass-through cost.
So if a city did collapse during this, how would that process go? Would the city no longer be the city? Would it just be Alachua County?
Yes. That's essentially what happens if a city ceases to exist, is the county, it simply becomes part of the county, and the county becomes responsible for not only the services, but the debt, all of those things fall back to the counties.
Which is basically the subdivision of the city, or subdivision of the city. Reverse that.
Do we have any other questions from the commission?
Okay, all right, Michelle, thank you for that. We're going to go ahead and move on to, we're going to now move on to forward focus. This will also be a very brief discussion. So 2 years ago, we had a citizen that approached the county and said, the eastern part of the county has not had the focus that we think the western part has had. We are in year 2 of 3, and while you are not in the eastern part of the county, we thought it was important that we at least summarize what we have done so that your sister cities, Waldo, Melrose, Hawthorne, Windsor, Cross Creek, Micanopy, so you're aware of what's going on over there. The idea here is that we show you kind of the process that the county's going through. When this concludes, it may be the city's desire that the county focus on maybe the northwest or the southwest. And so we want to share what we have done, again, very briefly. This is a third of the area of the county, a third of the area, 18,000 folks as far as the population, so 6% of the population. And so Missy, I will turn it over to you to briefly go through the county's Eastern Rockland County Forward Focus for our friends in the west. You're right.
Good evening, Commissioners. Missy Daniels with the county. So I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint. I can run through the slides if you want to see it, but you'll have it because it's a little bit more heavy, data heavy with what we've done. And I just want to give you a more brief summary. So if you'd like me to click through, I can, but I was just going to tell you about it.
I think let's just talk.
Okay, so as the chair said, this was a 3-year project focused on the eastern part of the county. So we've been to the communities of Hawthorne, Waldo, Micanopy, Monteoka, Melrose, Island Grove, and in between, we have rural clusters out there. We've been to, it's a 3-year project aimed to identify the social service needs in those communities, really any needs. We started with listening, but economic development opportunities, barriers to well-being on any level, and infrastructure gaps. Our goal from beginning to end is to get to the place where we understand the needs and what that part of the community needs to move forward economically and live vibrant lives, and get all the projects that we think maybe need to be done, be grant ready, because a lot, some of them need new sewer systems. County can't just say, okay, here's the check, you can do it. So things like that, we want to know what we need, be watching for grants, and get the communities themselves ready to move forward. Year 1 was all about listening. We had about 7 or 8 listening sessions throughout the whole eastern part of the county. We did a community survey and got a lot of great feedback from that part of the county as well. We send out newsletters, so if you're interested, we can give you the website in the presentation too. I can show it. We sent out the newsletters from each time we had a listening session. We would update the community on what happened afterwards. We have a website, we have a Zen City page, so you can go on there and follow along and see everything that's happening or happened within the communities. And during our first year, we were also lucky enough to get a grant from ICMA. It was an economic mobility grant. So at the end of the first year, we did a summit and brought in some subject matter experts on various topics that we heard during the year. Workforce and post-secondary employment access, post-secondary education access. Health and well-being was another key issue, and early childhood and youth. So we held that summit in October and kind of honed down again even further what really do we need to move these communities forward. Workforce, they said there's limited post-secondary programs and job opportunities. Transportation is a barrier. That has been a consistent comment throughout all of them. Transportation to jobs, transportation to childcare, transportation to healthcare, anywhere really, grocery stores. Poor internet access, and you're going to hear the presentation tonight, and I don't know if she's going to go through the whole thing, but it shows the broadband on both sides of the county, so out here and out there. So we're really getting ready to make a lot of leaps in that area. Support for small businesses, trade training, apprenticeships, and everyone wanted a Santa Fe satellite campus, and Santa Fe has now committed to putting a campus out there. Thank you.
Mayor Helen.
Yeah, Commissioner Wheeler has really pushed for that, and they've committed to do it. Health and well-being was one of the other categories, so significant barriers to care. There are no doctors left on that side of town, really. They've all closed shop and moved in. Some of the mobile units do come out there, but not a lot. Most of them are driving into Gainesville with transportation barriers. 80% of them in our surveys and that we got the comments from the meetings traveled 10 miles or more to get groceries. 80%, and there's 18,000 people in that area. I don't think I mentioned that, but it's about 18,000 people, and you can see the area right here on the map from north. Oh, yeah. So there you can see the project area, the whole county, and the pink.
There it is.
Oh, yes, okay, there you go. So 18,000 people. And you can see all the acreage and stuff. I won't go through that right now, but you can see it up there. Early childhood and youth was the next. Oh, back to the workforce really quickly. One thing, early childhood and youth made me think about it, and you've got some younger people here in the audience tonight. Maybe they'll get up and speak about some of your issues, but we have had, that side of the county is older by general population than the rest of the county. Alachua County is not an older county compared to some in Florida, but that side of the county definitely is. But we did have a few youths, and one gentleman who had just graduated high school came to the meetings. He's come to our county commission meetings and listening to them and hearing about all of the problems that his friends who were his age, 18, 19, 20, trying to get to jobs. They were all traveling 20 miles or more just to get to work, and it was a real burden. So listening to that age group really says a lot about what's going on. Early childhood and youth was the third one. Need for affordable childcare, that's a universal theme everywhere. Desire for youth and teen programs, things for them to do, and of course, again, it got back to job pathways. Digital divide, again, broadband, internet access was a cross-cutting theme. That's a cross-cutting theme at just about every meeting, whether you're on that side of the county or anywhere else. Transportation challenges, as I said, and the residents really want small-scale, community-friendly solutions, just like High Springs wants here. You want to maintain your character, but you want to have opportunities for your residents, and that's a balance to try to achieve, kind of a difficult one. So looking ahead, year two, right now, we're in the middle of year two, and we're analyzing all the comments and all the input that we've gotten. We've created categories of immediate, now, intermediate, long-term. Like I go back to the sewer system needs, that of course would be a long-term goal, but a lot of the things we've already been able to achieve and help them with. So we're categorizing that as well, but we're pouring over that so that we really have good data to understand how to move forward. And we're hoping to establish a community task force this year, because right now the communities are buying in. We have to keep that momentum going, because it really has to be community driven and community led, even beyond the 3 years, for all of the things to continue to happen. And then in year three, that's when we'll have an action plan that we bring back to the county commission that lists all of the things that we think need to happen, all the things that have already happened, and potential grants or how we can start achieving that for those communities. And I can just show you real quick. This kind of talks about the phases and some of the things I said, but if anybody in the audience wants this, I can get them the website too. And really more than this PowerPoint is our websites with our newsletters and all the information on it if you want more information.
Commissioner, is there anything you want to add? Ariane?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes, thank you. I would like to point out to District 2, which is my district, which is you folks, that when we voted for at-large in the last election, it meant that we could move about the county, all of us, without concerns for, stepping on somebody's toes or getting into somebody else's business. And so that's why you hear me talk about, as a retired teacher, being concerned about the Hawthorne kids over there not having access to the same kinds of educational opportunities. And so the beauty of having us be able to be fluid throughout the county is not just for the commission. If you have a commissioner that you're more likely to be able to work with than another one, It makes it so that we're all available to you. Everybody here is accessible to you. But I would also say too that your board and your staff members could work freely throughout the county. And this is what we're hoping to encourage, is that the folks that have not had as much attention as you folks on the western side of the county would reach out to those people and share your resources. And this is what I'm asking you to do, is to use the resources and the things that are successful in your community, share with the other communities as well as they grow and try to figure out a way to keep their populations home and to keep them prospering there. The woman that we're talking about that brought attention to the eastern part of the county is an old family from Island Grove. And I don't know if any of you all have been over to Island Grove for the Blueberry Festival over there, but you need to go. This year, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to have it because of the drought situation. They just don't have the berries. And so those are the kinds of things that we look at. And hopefully you will look, the Watermelon Parade is this weekend, and festival in Newberry, that we can move about the county freely and enjoy the fact that Alachua County is our hometown. It's not just High Springs, it's not just Alachua, it's not just Newberry or all the others. We all work together as a county, and all of these commissioners here care about this community just like I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And yeah, so really what lessons we are learning over there, we hope to be able to import across the county over here as well. And so we just want to give you any questions on your end.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, if I could, one of the things that sticks out to me here is that there's a lot of what you're talking about that is outside the county's control. We're talking about educational opportunities. How much are you able to work with the school board? And I mean, I can tell you that my 25-year-old took the last woodshop class that was taught at Santa Fe High School, and he loved it. They don't teach that anymore. They don't teach how to fix cars anymore. And there's a desperate need for that kind of worker. And I think there's job opportunities, but are you able to work with the school board to have that conversation? What if they had an auto mechanic program at Eastside?
I guess, I will say we do try to work with all of our other institutional partners and have joint meetings like we're having today and put the issues that are brought to us by our communities to them to share like the importance of that. And certainly workforce development has been a key component in conversation for sure. I will say that probably what we tend to do more often is do things that are within our control. Like we're part of CareerSource, and CareerSource drives a lot of training certificate programs and opportunities for retooling or for individuals to gain certification while on the job and pay for on-the-job training and pay for employers to pay people on the job to learn skills and also look at partnership opportunities. And we've recently started a heavy diesel mechanic training program in partnership with Santa Fe College, where they're developing a heavy diesel mechanic program that will certify people in that field, and they're utilizing our shop where we fix all of our big equipment for public works. And so it's a win-win for everyone. We're getting the opportunity to have young people that'll move through our system, help us with some of our equipment, and also potentially be recruitment for us because it's a hard job to recruit for. And at the same time, be training people for jobs that do not necessarily require a degree, but can earn, six-digit salaries. So we're excited about that partnership and tend to look at things like that when we're talking about these ideas, rather than like trying to tell another institution or another jurisdiction like what they should do with their money. It's more about what can we do with ours and how can we leverage collaborations and partnerships, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chair. And just
Mr. Wheeler, yeah,
jump in there
please.
real quickly too. I've got to say that the Department of Education is where a lot of this happens at the state level. So we just really do have to activate our representatives in Tallahassee. I faced off with the Department of Education in Live Oak, and I was really shocked about that board and who is serving on that board, who is actually administering to the state. These folks are lawyers and business people. I think there was only one person on that board that was a teacher, and she was one of those who was working virtually from home. You know, so what we have to do, if this is a need, it's a desperate need, we have to go to the higher level of the state too and demand that this is reintegrated into, you know, right now the focus is AI, technology and all of that. But, you know,
Dismantling our public education through charter.
and that too, you know, I mean, but the thing is, you know, I pray every day for a solar flare to knock them all out, y'all. So I'm just saying, I believe in pencil and paper and carrier pigeons. So if your technology goes out, you can blame me, you know, because what I call it techno autism. You know, we've made ourselves, we put ourselves on the spectrum by using this thing more than we need to. So my encouragement is to go to our legislators or the people on the Department of Education, those places, and just demand that they balance the education opportunities that we have, because the trades are where it's at, for sure. I mean, somebody's got to fix all of that technology and the electrical lights and all of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay. That's it for that. All right. Thank you, Missy. Appreciate that. All right, next up we have the rail trail update, and I'm not sure who's getting this one.
We're gonna have a presentation.
Jeff Hayes.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Jeff Hayes, County Growth Management. So I don't have a lengthy presentation, more to introduce the subject. I know Erica Hernandez from Trust for Public Land is here. Probably has more information on where the Trust for Public Land is on the negotiating with CSX and for the potential purchase of the rail trail. And as it stands right now, the county's participation is to, I know there's requests that she can speak more to it, but for some matching funds from the county and the city. We're in the middle of our budget process right now, so those decisions have been made. But the county isn't actively pursuing purchase potentially by the state of Florida through Trust for Public Land, CSX. So I'm happy to answer the question of the county or Ms. Hernandez can speak for Trust for Public Land.
Ms. Hernandez? Yeah, okay, Ms. Hernandez, you are recognized. Come on up and give us the latest and greatest, and we'll open it up for questions and see what the will of this board is.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor. Nice to see everybody. So just for the sake of everybody that's here with us from the public, Trust for Public Land is a national nonprofit. We have been in the state of Florida since 1974. We've protected over 185,000 acres of land, and our mission is to get people connected to the outdoors. We think that having access to the outdoors makes people happier and healthier. So when we protect land, it could be a schoolyard, it could be a rail trail, but it's all about having access. And so I know this community knows that this has been a priority project for almost 10 years at this point. And back in 2017, we had to take a break from pursuing that acquisition. Our partner walked away, but we have a renewed opportunity, and now Trust for Public Land has the railroad under contract to purchase. And so the way that Trust for Public Land works is we act as the primary, we negotiate with the railroad, we use our own funds to purchase, and then we convey to a public partner for that public use. And so in this case, the state is the willing owner to own the railroad in fee. They would have the title, the state would have title. They are the ones that are the trail sponsor, which is a legal term for the Surface Transportation Board, where they are the ones having to indemnify the railroad. That would be the state's responsibility.
So you say indemnify, meaning the county would not have any liability associated with the trail?
The county wouldn't have any liability associated with the railroad and that historic industrial use.
Right.
You know, if people are utilizing the railroad and you're managing the railroad, that's a different type of.
But any environmental
The environmental liability is all the same.
So that was a big, for those of you that were here in 2017, that was really what we couldn't get past, is that High Springs, the county, and then ultimately we were trying to get the city of Newberry in, would maintain that potential environmental liability, and that was just a deal killer. So that's a big step to have moved that over from local government to the state. Okay?
And the reason why I'm speaking to all of you is there has been a significant change in the state budget that would have allowed us to work directly with the state instead of trying to also request matching funds from the local governments. And we know since the last time we tried to do this, the price is only increasing. So, potentially this rail corridor would be there in the future, but it will get more expensive. And until it's owned by the public, we cannot acquire the grants to turn it into this beautiful amenity for this community, for the city of Newberry, for Alachua County, for our visitors. And I wanted to just share some statistics. We just heard some statistics. So within a 10-minute bike ride of the corridor are 27,000 people. That's 10% of the county that can ride their bicycle to the corridor potentially. If we think about the Gainesville-Hawthorne Trail over in the southeast part of the county, that's a 15-mile trail. This trail is 13 miles. It has over 74% usage is from out of the county, and those are state statistics. So those are visitors coming to utilize that trail system and enjoying it. That's over 50,000 people annually using the trail that the state is tracking right now. And so we do see this as not only an opportunity for recreation, but it's also an economic injection into our communities. And it's something that connects Newberry and High Springs. And, to talk a little bit about the environmental site assessment and the potential contamination, which is always anticipated when you're moving from something that's been in industrial use for 200 years. And now we want people to be able to ride their bikes and have their families on this trail. Currently, it's bare soil, and that's Railroad Avenue. That's Northwest 185th Road. We know people use it. They walk down there. They drive down there. They ride their bikes down there. When we presented in Newberry on Monday, some of the commissioners talked about how they see side-by-sides and ATVs on the corridor right now. People are using it, but it hasn't been capped in order to protect people from that potential contamination. So moving in this direction really helps us kind of go to that next step. There aren't a lot of grants for acquisition for this type of project. There are a lot of grants to help with implementation and building a trail. And there's a relationship that the state would have with the local governments, a letter of understanding probably between the county and the city, and then a 99-year lease between the county and the state to be the manager, to be the implementer. And something that we talked about with Newberry is when you have that local opportunity to manage, it's not just a trail, it becomes an opportunity to tell the community's story. You have this captive audience enjoying this beautiful place where they can stop instead of just passing through on their way to Post Springs or on their way to Ichetucknee Springs. We can get so many people to downtown High Springs through this corridor to utilize the local businesses, to have a nice ice cream, to visit the brewery without having to jump into their car and find a place to park.
So Erica, is the idea to actually build the trail would be to try to acquire, say, that federal grant to build the trail? Do you know what the approximate cost is to build the trail?
So trails that don't have a lot of water crossings and are a little more straightforward, I mean, we heard like the cost of paving road is about $500 million a mile. So $1.5 million. So
That's really per lane, like 2 lanes and something.
okay, so usually the
The trail's smaller than
it is. It's a lot smaller. It's usually either going to be up to the county or the county and the state to decide how big they want the trail to be. But the rule of thumb is between $1 million and $4 million per mile. $4 million is going to be like when you're in downtown Sarasota and there's all these water crossings and bridges and things like that. So $1.5 million to $2 million would probably be conservative to say that that's an accurate number.
So it's a $13 to $20 million project.
I think to build it probably, yeah.
Provided you stayed in federal grants.
Exactly, state and federal grants, the central system. The other opportunity is when when we get to the point where we have the environmental site assessment, we know the full extent of what needs to be capped, and what soil needs to be managed. And we know how much that costs, which is part of our due diligence before Trust for Public Land, we convey it to the public partner, to the state. We can go back to the railroad and say, this is how much it's gonna cost us to fix this, and negotiate potentially them providing some funds for that mitigation. It helps before.
What is where are you in the current appraisal and environmental assessment process?
Right. So we have it under option. We have a 2-year term. We have completed the title work. Title work for railroads is very complicated because you have many, many parcels, and it's 200 years of title by the same owner. So we actually have just cleared title. We had to figure out a few things, but we worked with CSX to figure that out. We have not done any appraisals at this point. We have a negotiated purchase price. So if the appraisal comes back higher, we wouldn't pay more than what we already negotiated. But we haven't moved forward with appraisals or due diligence at this point because we don't actually know that we have the funding to take this out. So that would kind of be the next step. So I can't say what the purchase price is. I can say that Trust for Public Land conveys property for the same price that we purchased it for. And right now, we're planning to convey it at $5 million.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yes, thank you. Erica, could you explain how you took us on this tour of this and where? And
Oh, yes,
I
thank you.
mean, by the peanut factory, it's a beautiful spot where it would terminate right there coming into the community.
Yes.
So if you could,
Absolutely.
explain what we did.
So I don't know if anybody has been out there lately, but the tracks were moved several years ago. So what you have out there now is a really mature tree canopy and native vegetation, a lot of wildlife. And the corridor starts at the Santa Fe River, and then we'll go east through downtown High Springs and ends at 222nd, is that Avenue? And then basically by the peanut factory and the brewery, it heads south in that Y junction towards Newberry Spring. It would connect to the trail that goes to Post Springs right now. There's already that paved access. And then it stops at 46 Avenue in Newberry, which is just a little parallel to Easton.
One of the, we mentioned this in Newberry as well, trying to make sure that they were engaged, because it stops just short of Newberry. But in order to continue into Newberry, there is an accommodation for a sidewalk that would be along. There's a similar sidewalk that's over towards, what is the park up from here? Not Poe Springs, the one with
Olino.
Olino. There's that walkway that goes, I think, from Fort White in that area too. So it's been done.
Yes.
And so that connection is important too. And so we're trying to get, make sure that Newberry is bought into that as well.
Yeah, they were very receptive at the meeting on Monday. The reason why we can't put the rest of the corridor south into downtown Newberry and then connecting to Trenton right now is because it's just not available for purchase. It's currently under a short line lease with a company that uses the railroad to transport to Crystal River. We have the right of first refusal, but it's just not something we can put under contract at this time.
And can you talk a little bit about, you've got a 2-year term, that term started 6 months ago or so we've got about 1.5 years to cobble together somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million. State you said the state does not have a lot of funding acquisition dollars, but possibly appropriation dollars, or?
So potentially there's the potential to go and request appropriation dollars. That's always on the table. This project would have been funded through the Florida Forever program. Last year wasn't fully funded. This year, they're actually deciding this week, but it's not looking good. That doesn't mean it'll never get funded ever again. Maybe next year there'll be funding and we'll be in a different situation. But we're kind of at the perspective that we don't want to hold back this project when we finally have it under contract again after we've been waiting so long to be able to get back to the table, to have the state be what's holding us back. So the more match that we can bring as a local investment, the easier it is for Trust for Public Land to get philanthropic donation, and then also bring something to the state that they can say, you know, we have this essentially a de minimis financial contribution, which is acceptable title. And it is on the Office of Greenways and Trails priority list. It's just that it's not, they just don't have any funding.
And so far, right now, we have, High Springs has, I think, 666,000 allocated wild spaces. They previously had thought you'd want to commit to this project. I don't know if that's still on the table. And that would be matched by the county money, because the county is matching that money. And then we would have to probably come up with some more money and then ask the state to match the full commitment. So what I kind of thought is,
We've talked about 1.5 million, that was the ask.
yeah, 1.5 and 1.2 is 2.7. That would give us a local match that would exceed 50% of the total as the state appropriation. But that would be heavily reliant on High Springs still wanting to do this. And then obviously we've tried to bring Newberry into the fold as well. So I think the purpose of tonight is to see if there's still interest from High Springs of using your wild spaces money in that manner. And if so, we probably need a motion to direct our staffs to work together to continue to work with the Trust Fund Public Finance and see if we can get there. And I'm not asking y'all to make that decision tonight. We just have it on the agenda so that everyone is kind of aware of what the local ask is.
Yeah, and what, you've also tried to engage private investors as well.
Yeah, so
Because I
we
remember
do
when
try.
you were on the tour.
Yeah, we do leverage public funds with private investment. That could be a private foundation. There are also local businesses that are in support of this project, although we wouldn't anticipate that a local business can bring, necessarily acquisition dollars to the table, but there are other ways that they can contribute to support the project in general.
Because the chamber, wasn't someone from the chamber that went with us?
Mhm.
I mean, I would envision if the city wanted to move forward and the county was willing to step up, it'd be a series of letters from both the institutions, city, hopefully the city of Newberry, the county, and then many private businesses, and then that package it together for a legislative ask in that session.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we're thinking about. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Mayor, for your report.
At the present time, we haven't had an official meeting of what we were gonna do with our wild spaces money. I did ask a question earlier today, and maybe you all can speak to this. So, if we were to sell the canoe outpost, the money would go back into a fund that we could not use because that particular funding was used from wild spaces money. Where would that money actually go back to? Because we know it's in a pot that we couldn't use.
I guess that's an attorney question.
Mr. Chair, to read that question. So we purchased the canoe outpost with wild spaces money. If we were to sell the canoe outpost, a portion of that funding that we got from wild spaces could not be used. It has to go to a pot that we could not touch. Where would that money actually go back to, and who would be able to utilize that particular money that we cannot touch?
The money that came from the county as part of that grant sponsorship, the matching grant through Wild Spaces.
Your microphone is down.
I think it's both. They're talking about if they bought something from Wild Spaces, the hours are theirs, so the money goes back to the.
It would go back into that Wild Spaces budgetary line item, whether it be the county's previous Wild Spaces budget item or High Springs previous.
Yeah, because we were told that we could not utilize that money if we sold it because of that wild space period. It's over. So who would be able to use that fund?
The money remains constrained to whatever uses we're gonna allow for that previous Wild Spaces surtax. So it's not that if you were to sell it now, the money is free to use wherever you like. You have to still meet the requirements of the Wild Spaces program at the time.
So it could be used for another wild space project, as in Rails to Trail.
Potentially, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That was the question I had. Thank you.
We were basically told that it was basically locked up, it could never be used again. We were under that interpretation that the county had set rules stating that it could only be used for that particular item. So what you're saying is you can go back into pot and can be moved towards the rail to trails to help that project.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Mayor, without knowing the specifics of that particular purchase and the, how the money was set aside for that, I can't answer exactly how that would be done. But I can say that typically the money would be used for the same purposes that it was allocated for previously.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I can say it's probably what they're probably referencing is the fact that we had an interlocal to use it in a specific way. So it's really a function of dealing with the interlocal, but the money itself, as long as it's still used for the purpose under the referendum and the ordinance, it still can be used for that purpose is what Corbin is saying. But I think what they're referencing is the fact that we had an interlocal agreement on the match money to use for that particular purchase. And we had some part in that.
Yeah, Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah,
So
we need to look at this very carefully because it was put up in conservation. I was living on that site when we sold this place. And it was, Tom Kay was here. We were the person who sold it had specific concerns and requirements for the sale and use of that property. So we have to be very, very careful and not too cavalier about talking about just selling it outright. There are strings.
well, that's what we were trying to get clarification
That's
on.
right, there are strings.
We don't want to do something that's going to not make any progress or be able to use in the future venues of that type thing. So that's all we were trying to get some clarification
Exactly,
on.
and I don't blame you, because there's been so many movable parts of that.
It would be foolish to sell it and the money goes and gets locked up and it's never used and nothing happens to
Absolutely,
make progress out of this.
absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I mean, I would just say too, I mean, I know it's y'all's parkland, it's y'all's decision, but in my opinion, selling that to do this rail trail would be robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's your only, that's the public access to the Santa Fe River right there, and it's owned by y'all. So I just want to put that out there. That's part of why we committed to paying it. I was there for that conversation, and that's why we agreed and thought it was so important, is because it's an opportunity for public access so close, and it was an important connection for so many people in the community. And so while I think this trail project is also a really important connection to community and nature, it's kind of it would be, in my opinion, robbing Peter to pay Paul in a way.
But I would say that the great thing about Rails to Trail is you get your cake and you eat it too, because you get access to the springs and you also get a rail trail. So you actually do get access that people can actually utilize. With the city not being able to pay for the insurance of canoes, we're not renting canoes there. So actually the rail trail would actually make more sense for the city of High Springs, and it would actually increase revenue in the city of High Springs compared to the few others.
Also touching on that, it doesn't do any good for us fishermen. We don't have a boat ramp to use, so if we can't put a boat ramp there in a dock, it's no use to people like me that want to put a boat there. You can't use the boat on Old Boat Ramp Road. Obviously, nothing is being used right now. But even with that, the county's willing to throw some money out there. Let's keep it and put a boat ramp there where we can access it. And people can actually launch canoes and kayaks there. Because as it is right now, anybody totes kayak or canoe there, they're going to trip over cypress knees. It's not a safe place for that. So we don't have the funding to make that a better project. Commissioner Grunder and I have really spoke on this. We wanted a boat ramp there for it to be able to launch small boats and canoes better and kayaks to access the river much better, but it's no use as it is sitting right now. So that's what our mayor's getting at. Let's use that, not saying that we're going to, but if that was a possibility and everybody wanted the rails to trails, it's easier to make that project happen and going through Department of Natural Resources, the county, and I'm sure maybe you guys can make that happen better, possibly, I don't know. But I appreciate the effort in saying what you're talking about, utilizing it.
I think Commissioner Grunner wants to speak.
Yeah, I would just say, like, honestly, getting back to the rails and trails, I would have no problem putting our next couple of years of rails and trails money toward this. I think it's, if we don't jump on this right now when we have the ability to, then we're really losing out on something special that we could bring and really lock in the county. It's something we have to move forward on. We need to, whatever we need to do, I would be glad to make a motion that we continue to have conversations and ask our staff to work with the county staff in order to just push this forward. So I'll go ahead and put that motion on the floor.
We talking about a motion to just direct staff, let's look at the wild spaces money.
Work together and see what's going to
I'll second.
Okay, do I have a motion for the county to have our staff work with the city staff?
So, second.
Okay, so we got so the county has a motion on the floor as well to direct our staff to work with the city staff to continue to see if we can cobble together enough money to present to Trust for Public Lands and the state legislature for next year. Any further discussion from your board? Any further discussion from our board?
I would just like to say to you folks, I would be glad to work with you on the outpost possibilities. We had someone who was willing to put a floating dock in there recently, and we'll go back to those people. They were just concerned that they weren't getting clear enough message that the city was going to maintain, keep the outpost. So if that's the case, then we'll make sure that you all have not only the questions answered that you need answered about who owns what and what the regulations are, but, to keep working with these groups who are willing to get in there and help. And what it does is also gives us affected party status when they start talking about the effects of the river modeling plants and all that. You have a good, strong argument for being an affected party and protecting that part of the river that's yours.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I interpret this motion to also get your question answered with regards to what are the uses of a potential sale and or whether you keep in it. And so our staff can work together to sort that out and give you real numbers.
If we don't know what we don't know, so.
We'll definitely do that as far as and whatever the other conditions were under that acquisition. Sound good? Sound good? All right, let's open it up for the public. Now's an opportunity for the public to speak to the motion. The dual motion, basically mirror motion for both the city and the county. Anyone? Going once? Going twice? All right, let's bring it back to the board. Any further discussion from my board? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion is unanimous. Mr. Mayor.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Okay, that's unanimous. All 9 of us. Mary is sorry, she couldn't be here. I think she would have voted for that. Okay, Erica, thank you so much. Jeff, you heard the direction. We appreciate that. Next up, I believe, is your item, fire services. So we're gonna have
Our city manager take over this one.
So when we put this agenda together, we had not had our workshop. We had a workshop last month to discuss, it should be police and fire services on the agenda. When we put the agenda together, we kept it on there in case any members of the board had any questions directly for the county on what services would look like. And Chief Diaz is here. He said he'd be here to answer any questions, and basically it was if the board had any other questions left over from the workshop they wanted to ask to their county partners.
Any questions from the commission?
I do. Do you guys know offhand how much of the fire assessment for the county covers your fire department? And the percentage that's left over, what covers that?
Yes, Chief, thank you for being here tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Harold Diaz, Fire Chief, Alachua County Fire Rescue. Mr. Mayor and Chair, our fire assessment is about 70% of our fire budget. The rest of the funds, the 30%, comes from sales tax of various sorts, utility sales tax, public service sales tax. I think it's important to talk about our budget in its entirety. We have a split funded budgeting process. Anything involving a rescue unit, our EMS side of the house of what we do, is funded by about 77% of ambulance fee transports and about 23% of general fund subsidy dollars. And so when you see a fire engine or a fire station, if there's not an ambulance at that fire station, then that is primarily funded solely by fire assessment and by the sales taxes that I spoke of. Our fire stations that have both a rescue unit and a fire engine in it are split funded, right down the middle, 50-50. So the personnel costs and everything are attributed to, appropriately, to the fire assessment or to the ambulance fee transports and general fund.
Go ahead,
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything done. We appreciate it. I learned a couple of things at our budget workshop that I wanted. When we have a call here in High Springs that requires ambulance transport to the hospital, if it's road and you need a couple of people in the back of the ambulance, one of our guys is riding in. And then our fire chief or our PO have to go to retrieve that and bring it back here. Is there, Alachua County could bring our guys back? I didn't know we were doing that because we're spread pretty thin.
Chief said he did that because to make faster to get the things back up and going, to bring them back in the ambulance. But if they get another call, so the chief and Kevin will go in order to facilitate getting them back into service quicker.
Okay, so it would be that same group of people that would bring them back. We would just have to wait for that patient to be admitted before they were handed off to the hospital, before they would bring them back out. So instead, we send our people.
Yeah, so the way that it works really throughout the whole county, and then it also impacts our fire engines also. Either the rescue unit, the ambulance will bring them back, or we will send someone to go get them. Sometimes, depending on the location, the type of call, those types of situations that come up, one of our engines, the engine actually that was depleted, the personnel will go and actually go pick it up. Sometimes we'll have a battalion chief pick up the person. So it really varies.
So you have to do the same thing we do.
Yeah, it's pretty much a standard of care that is all throughout Florida, really. I speak to Florida. That's not an uncommon practice. We try to really limit the amount of people that we have riding in because we don't want to deplete an area of town of resources and personnel, especially when it comes to a paramedic riding in. And so we have made quite a bit of investments in our technology and equipment to have auto pulse devices so that we have automatic, chest compression devices and ventilators and things like that to limit that.
Mm-hmm.
So we work hard to try to alleviate that situation from happening.
And something else that we talked about at the budget workshop last week is with Station 21 up and running and with that ambulance down there at Station 20, I know that you guys house an ambulance in Newberry. They made a place. If we had a place for an ambulance here in High Springs, would it be something we could talk about moving that ambulance out here so that, there'd be better ALS support here, but the county would pay for that ALS support? Is that something that would be possible? We're jumping way ahead, I know, but it was just a thought.
That's fine. So, Chair and Mayor, that is not something that would really be to the county's advantage to do. And I'll list a couple of reasons why. For years, we were in City of Gainesville fire stations, our rescue units were. And we ended up in situations where there was confusion about who had the authority over that crew, whether it's the fire department that they were being housed in or our department. There's a lot of issues and concerns that come about that. When the Newberry situation took place, the backstory behind that is before then, we had opened Station 24 and had a rescue unit, Station 24 in Jonesville. We had a rescue in what we call the Half Moon area, which was between Newberry and Archer, in a trailer off of State Road 45, County Road 45. And that rescue was stationed there for years. When I was on the road, it was there. When we opened up what was then called Station 15 off of Southwest Archer Road, that rescue unit was moved over to the new station to get them out of that trailer. The elected officials in Newberry were not happy about that because there was a longer response time for a rescue unit to be in that area. And we were able to get approval for an additional rescue unit. And we actually asked for that rescue unit to go to the east side of Painesville, where the call load was. But there was a lot of discussion. I don't know if Commissioner Chestnut and Cornell, if you remember this, there's a lot of discussion back then about the location of that rescue unit. And Newberry made an offer to house a rescue there. I will tell you, I'm not a fan of that because we have had conflicts in that station with previous administrations of Newberry, quite frankly, of recruiting our personnel while they're in their station. And so it's not something I would recommend to our board. There's no advantage for Alachua County Fire Rescue to do such a thing.
All right, any other questions?
I think we can ask the hard question. Okay, we go to you guys. What's that look like? How does that roll out? What's the time frame?
So just
Before you ask that.
Yeah. I guess I just want to be clear. I think I'm just trying, this was not a conversation of our board. There has never been a conversation under which we have an interest in or plan to take over the High Springs Fire Department. I just want to make that clear to the public and to everyone here, that that has not been something that this board has taken up or thought about or had a conversation about at all. And it's actually been the opposite. Yeah, we have a lot of the small municipalities that are struggling right now and are kind of asking us to help them out and to figure out ways. And we've really had to tighten our belts and make some tough decisions to do things at Micanopy. And you know, we're seeing that this is a trend, but I just want to be clear that it isn't something that we're trying to do a takeover of the High Springs Fire Department. Thanks for letting me say that.
Mr. Chair and Mayor, I do have a presentation of what that would look like if the county should move in that direction. Obviously, it would require their approval, but I have an informational that if the city requested Alachua County to provide fire service protection within the city limits of High Springs, what that would look like. So it's up to the chair and manager if you would like for me to move forward with that or not.
Yeah, I mean, so I know from my perspective, Chief, this board, I don't think has ever had a desire to speak about that. And if this board, the City of High Springs Board, directs their staff to ask for that, I think that would be appropriate. But certainly, it's not this board's intention to provide you with an alternative unless asked. And so that's what I say. Commissioners, are we know that? Yeah, so we are here to support the local fire department. We rely on the local fire department. We appreciate the local fire department. But that being said, it's mainly because all of you are, you know, we represent each of you as well, and they represent each of you. We don't know your budget like you know your budget, and if this is something that your board would like us to present, we're happy to. I haven't seen this presentation, so it would be really nice that if that's what they wanted, that they made that request, you could brief us, and then we could come back and give you those thoughts, because we could get input as to what you're presenting. But I think that's the appropriate way to do it.
All right, so we need to move that to another meeting.
We don't need a motion to direct staff to request this.
That will be up to your board. Yes, sir. Yeah, your board representative, one of them will have to back and look at it.
I'll make a motion that we would like our staff to obtain this so we can do the presentation.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one more question, if I may, please? Chief, you said that 70% of your budget is covered with the county fire assessment fee, and then 30% is from sales tax. We're not at 70% with our assessment. How could High Springs get more of the county sales tax so that we could help bridge that gap?
I don't have the answer to that. That's outside of my purview.
One of my questions is, how does the county divvy up all kinds of things, not just sales tax, but is it just a set equation? how do we get a certain amount of wild spaces, a certain amount of impact fees, sales tax, all that?
So sales tax, so the infrastructure surtax was decided at the beginning. It is based on the statutory formula, which is the population. There are only certain ways to divvy up the infrastructure surtax by statute, and we chose the default, which is the population method. You get a direct amount from the state for your portion for the city, and then the county also. Correct, it goes direct from the state to you. And then the county has taken 12 million off the top of its own share to share with the 9 municipalities that we give out of the money we receive. 6 million to the city of Gainesville and 6 million to that's shared amongst the municipalities, which works out to be $666,666 over the life of the
a higher
surtax.
percentage of your population.
Right, and that comes off the county share, not anybody else's share that we have given to the municipalities.
Kind of negotiated that, if you remember, on your behalf, because the city of Gainesville, that was fair, but we all kind of worked that out together with the city.
And then impact fees are done by each municipality and county as the law allows you to do them. And I will just add, our fire contracts are based on a calls for service methodology. And they are based on the services received. They are not based on solely on financial need. We pay for the services we receive for every department.
Mr. Mayor, if I could follow up, what you were talking about impact fees. Is there an ability to have a public safety impact fee? We've talked about impact fees in the past. Do we have an ability to pass an impact fee for public safety? So I don't think we currently have one.
So you can't. You could pass we're doing a new impact fee study, that's what we're getting the money for.
Mhm.
And if that new public, or
Oh, I
that
definitely want
new study.
But then my question to the attorney is, how can we use it?
In very limited ways. Like most impact fees, it's limited to impact. So impact of new development on your public safety services. So it can't be used to fund the things that you need now or the things that you use now. It's the impact fees that you'll be able to assess from incoming development to the extent that they increase the need on your public safety services. And so that's part of what the study contemplates, is how to calculate that.
So I think since we have a motion on the floor, we'll take any citizen comments. Please state your name for the record and limit all comments to 3 minutes.
Yes, sir, Jim Comish. I own property outside the city limits near Post Springs, and I understand that you actually provide fire services out in the county beyond the city limits. And I believe you're struggling with your budget. I want to make sure that the county is paying you fairly. To reach outside of this small municipality, because, I personally think it would be bad to lose the fire department. And in lieu of losing it, it would seem you would have the ability not to serve calls outside the city limits if that was a mechanism to keep your in-house fire department. So I don't know the answer, but, I have been a victim of arson, and I got a very good response from High Springs. I couldn't ask for more, but, that stretches your scarce resources, and I just want to make sure that you're getting full cost reimbursement for taking care of the county's responsibility. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Matt. So we have a contract, an agreement with the county. If we respond outside the city limits to support the county, they pay us X number of dollars. I don't know what it is. It's 800 something. Does that sound right, Chief?
$865.
$865. And and the flip is the same. So if we're at a call and the county responds as the primary to a city call, we pay the reciprocal to the county. We negotiate that every year. I'm hoping, the chief is here, I'm hoping to get a multi-year contract out of it so we can kind of have something steady, but we do get paid by the county. And we will say we budgeted based on numbers, what we could with the implementation of Station 21 out in Alachua, and we're still coming out ahead on that. So we do get compensated by the county and vice versa.
All right, do we have any other citizen comments pertaining to the motion?
Good evening, Commissioners. Sorry, my name is Jessica Gord, and I'm here tonight not just as a partner of a firefighter, but as a mother, a neighbor, and someone who chose to build a life in High Springs because of the community this fire department has created. When people talk about losing a fire department or handing one over to a county, they often talk about budgets, coverage maps, contracts, and response times. But what we are really losing in our community, we are losing our neighborhood fire station that my boys call Daddy's Fire Station. Our Christmas mornings and Easter mornings have been spent there, having breakfast with him while he's on shift because it's just down the road. My children get to grow up seeing their father serve the town he loves and roll down the windows to wave at him on the truck when we're at a stoplight. They see firefighters at holiday events, school visits, and community helper days, and they know these firefighters by name, and so do the people in this town. And our family is not the only family that feels this way. There are many spouses, children, partners, loved ones who understand that this is bigger than a building or a contract. These firefighters are woven into the fabric of this town in ways that cannot be measured on a spreadsheet. My spouse loved this town and this department so much that we left Jonesville and built a home here. We planted roots here. We didn't choose a new build. We chose to restore an old home because we wanted to pour love back into the city, the same city that poured love into us. And we are raising our children here. We've adopted roads. We're teaching our boys that being a part of the community means taking care of it. And that is exactly what this fire department has always done, because for local firefighters, service does not end when the shift does. Even when they legally cannot respond in any official capacity, these men and women show up with chainsaws after storms, ladders, personal tools, and helping hands, because this is not just where they work, it's their community too. We've delivered pizzas to hotel rooms when we know that that hotel room holds a family that have lost their fire or their home and everything inside of it. I can go on, but I say this so that you guys, commissioners, mayor, know what you lose when you take away a local fire department. We consistently stand in these meetings like this and talk about preserving the character of High Springs. We talk about protecting the identity of our small town and keeping it from becoming just another place swallowed up by growth. But tonight, one of the very things that makes this town feel small, connected, and personal is at risk of being handed away to a county department, and I don't approve. My children are learning what community looks like by watching the people in this department serve others. They are learning what it means to love where you live, to show up for neighbors, and to take pride in being part of something bigger than yourself. Years from now, people may never remember the budget numbers discussed in this room, but they will remember whether High Springs fought to preserve the things that made this town feel like home, or whether we just chose to hand them away. This local fire department is not just a service. It has been the heartbeat of this town. And I don't think there's any way that we can even remotely consider taking that away from our families, our children in this community. I wasn't able to be here last week as I'm a spouse of a firefighter, so I have to be home as often, but there's just no way that we can even consider this. There's just no way. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Jessica Gord.
Good evening, my name is George Tatum, this is my wife Christina Tatum, I'm a citizen of High Springs. I'll also state that I'm a volunteer firefighter in certain capacity with the High Springs Fire Department. The reason I came up here to talk to you tonight is to focus on you. What you guys don't understand is our son is with the fire department. He is full-time. From what we understand, he was the first course completer at Austin High School in the fire EMS program that we did not know. 4 hours or more a day, starting at 4 a.m., he would get on a bus right across the street up here to ride over there and back. This is his community. This is where he wants to serve. He was full-time with another department and decided that let's pay because he wanted to serve his community. That's why I do what I do, is because I want to serve the community. Sir, I appreciate you. My father-in-law was with Livermore County for 32 and a half years and retired. I appreciate everything that you've done for our community. I appreciate the last budget meeting, you came out and said, I cannot afford this. Our department cannot afford to take you over or to service you. This has nothing to do with Alachua County and the men and women that serve out there. We have many friends, many family members that have been with the department. This is about the fact that we have 2 police officers that are on our city commission that are trying to kill our fire department. Period. Exclamation point, no other fact. Thank you for your time.
I don't say this, my name's Christina Tatum, so just to put it on the record. We thank you guys for coming. What I don't understand is we voted to pay more taxes to keep our department. Why are we here? Why are we discussing this? Why are we not instead trying to figure out how to fill the gap with other things or cut other departments? We agreed to it, and then you turned around and you shot us all in the face when we said we'd pay for it. How? Why? Your community is telling you the department, and you're going against what your community, what you're supposed to be serving. You're not supposed to serve who voted for you. You're supposed to serve everybody who even didn't vote for you. You serve High Springs, not your friends. Sorry. Thank you guys.
Hi, my name is Dee Hillary. I live here in High Springs. The city is obviously in a financial crisis. The fire department has cut $486,000 since Chief Peters took over. They've laid off 3 people after the commission voted to maintain staffing at 5. During the time they laid off the firefighters, the police department hired more police officers. Every department in the city is at critical staffing levels. The police chief stood in front of everybody and stated that his department is fully staffed, even stating his department is the only department fully staffed in the county. With all due respect to the chief, it truly pains me to state the truth. But not only was that arrogant and ludicrous, and with the police department being 43% of the budget and the fire department 21%, that is fiscally irresponsible to the city's current crisis. The police department needs to make actual cuts, not pretend ones. And for the record, the fire department mentors the children of High Springs just as much. And with all due respect, none of the commissioners should ever berate the citizens after they stand up here and speak from their hearts. Because at the end of the day, we're the ones that hired you guys to work for us. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dana Stubblefield, and I'm gonna get emotional here. February 28th, I had to make a 911 call. My husband was unresponsive in the home at 6:20 in the morning. The High Springs department came within 5 minutes, if that. My husband was dead. They brought him back to life, not once, but twice. They did chest compressions on him. In my home, there was 2 guys doing that. The third gentleman was getting the equipment to do the chest compression. They literally, 5 of them, took him and shoved him off the recliner onto the stretcher to get him going, to get him to the emergency room. He died twice, once in my home, the second time in the ambulance. I owed him everything. 31 years of marriage I'm gonna have come August. I think the High Springs Fire Department and their EMTs there deserve a lot more than what they're getting right now. A lot more. Put yourself into my shoes. We all have older parents. We all been with our spouses for how long? I've got 31 years, and I've got 2 grandchildren who love their grandfather, who have taught them fishing up here, baseball, everything. And I'm not willing to give him, I know I may have 1 year left with him because he does have COPD and congestive heart failure. But these ladies and gentlemen responded quickly to my home to help me, help my husband, and got him where he needed to go. So please, they deserve a lot more than what you're giving them. That's all I have to say.
I'm a new grandpa, so I really like your shirt.
Thank you. Bob Watson, and High Springs of known as Railroad Bob. Last September, my daughter had a heart attack. And like everybody called 911. The High Springs Fire Department came, also the police. And a few things I remember, because you get kind of out of everything, your mind is just not there. And I don't know which fireman said to me, they said, it doesn't look good. Do you want us to continue CPR or not? And I said, if you would try. Well, unfortunately, she was already gone. I didn't realize that at the beginning. No father wants to lose a daughter. My first and hopefully only one. Our High Springs Fire Department is great. I think we need it. I think there's a way to find the money. Maybe less commissioners, maybe they can take a cut in pay. But how do you put a price on someone's life? I want to know that, because I sure can't come up with that. So I hope they will consider what they can do to keep our High Springs Fire Department in High Springs. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca Burns. I fled Gainesville in 2015 and moved to High Springs, and there's a reason for it. The VOCC grades out at about a D+ from a small city perspective, in my opinion. You're not incompetent in every dimension. You do manage a large county apparatus, but the pattern of overreach into municipal home rule combined with bloated spending and deteriorating basic infrastructure is hard to defend. At the large election structure means High Springs, Newberry, and Archer residents are perpetually overvoted by Gainesville. There's a structural root to this pattern, and it's not accidental. The bottom line is this. You also held a joint meeting with Newberry just 3 days ago on May 11th. They're making rounds, you guys are making your rounds to all the smaller municipalities right before the August election season heats up, softening the ground, getting the buy-in on county priorities, and framing the forward-focused narrative
before candidates start running. The forward focus and the fire services discussions are the ones I'm paying the closest attention to, and I am here in this room tonight to speak to it. Thank you.
Just want to remind everyone that this particular citizen comments is for the motion that's on the floor. So just about the fire services.
Hi, Kelly Potter, Prohibition Pizza. Vice President. A couple weeks ago, during one of your meetings, I did speak, and I want to reiterate it now that they're here, and I have to commend you. Thank you for being here. Last year during this time, I appreciate, closer, thank you. I appreciate both Mary Helen Wheeler and Miss Anna kind of gave us a butt whooping over the brewery issues last year. I'm hoping that's gonna hopefully push you guys into a little bit more of a decision with the fire department as well, and I'm grateful for their presence for that. I know that you guys are under the gun trying to figure out budgets, but I agree. I feel we need to try to find another way. Several weeks ago, I spoke about what happened at Prohibition. We had an infant who was choking. The fire department was there in less than 3 minutes. Much like Bob, what is the price of a human life? Is that worth cutting? Is that worth getting access? How long would it take for fire and everything to get out to High Springs? Certainly more than the 2 minutes around the corner.
Direct your trip to the chair.
Certainly more than 2 minutes around the corner as it is. We have a thriving downtown area. It is only going to grow. Those services are only going to become more necessary. So I would just implore, you have to make the hard decisions and you have to make some cuts. Yes, there's some budget inequality there. Perhaps you could take a little to give a little. Just please consider that in your thoughts. Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gigi Buigas. I've been living here now for 4 years. I came here because of the wonderful people in High Springs. It is a lovely town. I've been coming here for many years and decided to make this my residence. Not long after being here, I did something dumb and I caught my face on fire. Not knowing not to use gas to burn some yard work, I caught myself on fire. I was living by myself. I had absolutely nobody. I really had no idea what to do because I went into shock. I called the fire department. They were incredible. They were at my house in maybe 3 minutes, and just incredible group of people. You can't get those services when you don't have your own fire department or your own police department. It's not going to happen. The distance is not there. This is a small community that's growing so rapidly. It is scary. We're losing everything that High Springs stands for. It needs to maintain these services because this is what makes High Springs what it is. If we lose the services, we're gonna lose our town. It's just the way it is. Change is inevitable, but we have to be responsible about how we create change. And it should not be at the risk of our citizens' health and safety. Thank you.
2 years ago, I go.
Wait till you get to the mic and please state your name for the record.
I'm sorry about that. I speak very good afternoon. 2 years ago, I fell and broke my left leg. And in 5 minutes, 2
fireman car and 2 police car there to come to help me. And I'm here now to help my community, to speak with them. Okay, thank you so much.
What was your name for the record?
Beatriz Pereira. Okay, sorry.
All right, any other citizen comments?
Marilyn Melwitz Gibson. I'm actually a resident of Fort White Rural. So I wanted to come to the podium. I don't know if this is still happening. 2002, I had to use that, 2002, I had to use the phone call. And who came first? And I am the rural end. I'm on the other side of the river. I'm in Columbia County. 911 goes out, it goes out to everybody, right? So I got a choking baby. The people that came first were the High Springs Fire Department. And I just wanted everybody to know their reach is wider than you think. And it's within minutes that they got there, within, I think, under 15 minutes. Lake City, referring to how far Gainesville is, Lake City, 45 minutes later. So I just want to also emphasize that we use them too when it's necessary. And at that point in time, there was an interlocal agreement between the two counties. I don't know if you still have that, but it was very helpful for me, very close by. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor of directing staff to go back?
Do we have time for commissioner comment on that motion by any chance? Or
Yes.
do we just vote?
You can make a comment.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I think that I'd like to explore the idea of public safety impact fees. If we needed a new tanker or a new brush truck, that could help buy a new vehicle, yes, because that's a growth issue. Yes?
Always. It's always fact specific, but generally speaking, yes, if the need was created by a new development, it could be used for that.
Well, I mean, as the population grows, that is the need, right?
There's a calculation that will go into your study and it will tell you exactly. It's not something that you would, if you already have a need for it and it's not tied to a specific development, it's gonna be difficult to use impact fees for that.
But I mean, as
So you
we
can't
are
replace a tanker.
growing, sorry?
You can't replace a tanker.
You wouldn't be able to replace it.
Understood, but as we are growing, which we know we are, are we going to cut off our nose to spite our face here and not be ready for that growth? If we're looking at, impact fee studies already, which we desperately need for water, wastewater, why wouldn't we do the same for public safety and decide how you can, obviously you have to commit to how you're gonna distribute that. Is it just fire and police? Are there other public safety issues? I'd like to understand. I think we're jumping ahead a little bit here and trying to vote on this motion because I don't know that we have all the information.
Yeah, I think the motion is just to direct them to go back.
The motion is just to get education.
Yeah.
That's it. We heard all about what the county would do for us.
Commissioner
ASO wise.
Wanda, can you speak on the mic for the?
Oh, sorry.
This motion is simply to get the information that we already got from the police department as to what it would look like if the Alachua County Sheriff's Office came in here. I completely understand the citizens' concerns, and I have those same ones. I've only ever known this place to have a fire department. I'm born and raised here. It's just to get the information so that we can make the most educated decision. I would think that is kind of without saying, the most responsible thing that this commission could do. To get all the information and have all of it laid out in front of you before you make a quote educated decision. So that's simply what we're trying to do here. That's the only thing this motion is.
Yeah, but I agree, Commissioner Weiss, during that particular presentation, we do need a presentation about impact fees because that is in correlation of education of what we need in order to make a informed decision about the fire department. So we do need
But that impact fees is not gonna come from the Chief Theus. The only thing the motion is about is to get a presentation from Alachua County Fire Rescue to see what it would look like. We got to direct other staff to do the impact fee study. That could be another motion. That could be, this motion is to see a presentation done by the county so that we could make an educated decision.
Yeah, I
There's
think
7,100
I
people.
think we understand the motion.
So we're asking to, if I could clarify, just asking to have Chief Theus added to the next agenda? Is that what we're looking for?
That's what, yes, that's what we've talked about.
Is that something that Chief Theus would be able to put together that quickly?
I believe he said he already had it together, we just needed to direct and,
Chief, I believe you or Deb or someone from your staff could present that and you could have time to brief us prior to that presentation.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I have a quick question for Chief.
Well, let's open.
Okay, yeah.
And then we'll come back.
Chief, I was under the impression we were gonna hear that tonight, and I understand the county's process. But our fire department is under stress, terrible stress, wondering, are they gonna have a job today, tomorrow, next week, their spouses? And I understand we cannot make a decision without knowing everything ahead of us. So I'm a little disappointed that we don't have that tonight for their sake, because they need to know that. And I understand again, but I hope we can have it by our next meeting so we can work to calm people's fears and concerns. So hopefully you guys can, but I do want to thank you for your service. I know what you've had to go through to get where you're at today. As growing up in the Gainesville Fire and Rescue child, as my dad retired there, I know what y'all had to go through. I know what our people are going through right now, and I hate it for them. We're trying to make qualified decisions up here that's best going to suit all our citizens and our people. So hopefully you guys can get together so we can help them with their fears, or at least calm some things.
Vice Mayor, when do y'all meet?
May 28th.
May 28th?
All right, so we have the,
Question coming. So before y'all go to the vote, I just want to open up to our commission, see if they have any comments. Chuck?
I wanted to know if High Springs had fire assessment fees. You do have, okay, I didn't know.
Mr. Wheeler?
Chief, we've had other fire departments struggle with this kind of thing. Can you go in and, are you engaged in trying to help them assess and to advise maybe as to how they could actually, within their own services, fix the financial situations? Do you give them ideas and recommendations that they can use?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the staff level discussion I've had with Chief Peters and with City Manager about trying to help them stay within their financial budget, understanding that they're having some difficulties. So yes, we've had those conversations.
So was anything unreasonable that you had given them that would not be practical for this community? Was there anything unreasonable that would not be able to be accomplished?
I don't know that I understand the question.
Well, I guess, the response, I guess, is what I'm asking. Was the response, did they feel like that what you were recommending was not practical for this community?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I think
Okay, that wasn't
we came up with some pretty judicial things to try to reduce their expenses. Just as advice, I have to be very careful in doing that because I'm not the municipal fire chief. I'm a county fire chief.
Sure.
And so, the municipality is the authority having jurisdiction for that municipality. The counties by state statute have to provide some sort of EMS service, either through direct service or contracting ambulances. The counties are not bound by any state statute to provide fire protection. This county has chosen to do that in the mid-'80s. And so we've covered the unincorporated areas of Alachua County. We've also entered into partnerships and eventually assumed services in several of the rural cities throughout Alachua County. And so For me, it's a little, I have to be very careful. I feel like I have to be very careful in what I advise and what I say. And to the point of being ready for presentation, but not delivering it, I have to go by a board recommendation or a board motion before I can really present to another entity. And so that's the purpose for tonight. The sheriff has autonomy. He's an elected official. He has a lot more autonomy than the fire chief does. Sometimes I wish I had the same.
Thank you. Chair, I think my question is for our board then. I understand the concerns of this community, and this has been a hot topic for a while. Why we would not allow that conversation tonight? I would like to know why, what is the reluctance for this board?
It was never brought to our attention. Yeah, we haven't seen it.
Well,
I guess here's my concern. I have a couple of concerns. Exactly. It was my first time hearing it. When I drove up and saw your signs, my manager called me, our manager called me earlier and mentioned that, fire was on the agenda, which I had seen, but let me know that, the community was really concerned and that you all might be losing your fire station and that they might be asking us to assume it. And I was like, what? I don't know what the financial implications of that are to the county. I don't understand what the staffing implications. I mean, we're having trouble staffing up all of the staff that we need, serving the areas that we have and so many of our folks are young and are, just getting up. And so trying to have the leadership that would be necessary to run a whole fire station in another place, it's a huge consideration if that was an ask of the county. And so I feel like it's our responsibility to understand what that ask is before we have them present and then you all potentially make a motion like, let's do that. And then we might be like, well, no, we're not gonna do that. I don't wanna create any kind of consternation. And I hear our residents, the residents of the county, not just of High Springs, telling us loud and clear that they don't want that to happen. And without, understanding more about the issue and without being able to see the numbers, I know it's not just a numbers thing, and I hear that loud and clear, and I agree with you 100%. But it also is a decision that impacts all the taxpayers of the county when we make that decision to take on a municipality's fire services, and it's our responsibility to understand that. So I just don't feel prepared. That's why.
Well, I did know about it, and when I saw it on here, I just assumed that everybody did. Because from what I understand, it's a presentation just for information. It's not a commitment from us.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it. That's what I'm
I think
saying.
that's the point is, well, commissioners on either side of you also haven't seen it, and I haven't.
Would we need to see it before everybody saw it? This is what I'm trying to understand. Why? Because from what I understand, it's not a commitment from the county. It's just a presentation as to, for information purposes, that's all. And that's not the sort of thing that we would be addressing tonight one way or another. It's just a matter of the same time they're getting information, we'd be getting it too. So.
I just want to be clear that that's not what I just heard the city commission say. The city commission just said that they wanted to hear this presentation so that people in the back of this room, our men and women who are serving the High Springs Fire Department, could have certainty or not on whether they have jobs. Meaning that they had an intention to potentially make a motion tonight to make a decision, one way or the other.
We actually don't.
No, I didn't hear that.
That's what they said. That's what one of the gentlemen said.
Well, that people in the back are concerned, yes, but they want to hear the information because they all came in here, they were all signed up, people out there in their t-shirts and their signs because they came here wanting to hear what the possibilities are. But that's not what I came prepared to take on because I knew that's not where the county was headed.
I'd just like to clarify what my thought process is. I just wanted to hear the presentation. We're not making a motion tonight with a dissolve or say we can't make a definitive decision if we don't have the information. So we're not making a decision tonight. My interpretation was we were getting a presentation on what the county could present or not, just so to give us some information.
So commissioners, the chief has a presentation. If you all would like to see it at the same time as the city commission, happy to do it. If you all would like to be briefed prior to that, and then perhaps that presentation would change, That's up to you all. It's the will of this commission. Let me just make a couple of comments and then y'all think about that. And then if you want the chief to present it, he's ready. He's the best chief in the state. You know, he won fire chief of the year last year, and then he, look at him. He literally is the best chief in the state. So, you know, what I want to say is the following. In our county, on the eastern side of the county, we have Windsor, which is a volunteer fire department. We have Cross Creek, which is a volunteer fire department. We have Melrose, which is a volunteer fire department. And we have La Crosse, which is a volunteer fire department. In the cities around the county, Waldo, Micanopy, Hawthorne, and Archer, Alachua County has stations in those cities. And what I would say is, in Newberry, they have their own fire department, and then obviously Alachua, we have a county fire department. And firefighters are the heart of every single one of those communities. Your city actually has fire and police. Other than the city of Gainesville, you're the only one with both, and so those are expensive. You know, you have a high level of municipal service that really create what I call a unique hometown feel, and I support our fire departments in every one of our cities. I also am a very, very strong believer in home rule authority. And so I defer to my local electeds as to whether or not you want to charge those fees to maintain that local fire department, which I support. And if not, then you would pay the county fees. You saw where the county's budget and what we're looking at. And you also saw that 56% of our general fund, we allocate to public safety. There hasn't been another board in the last 3 decades that is more committed to public safety that I'm aware of than this board. And while we are not a local fire department, we would support High Springs just like we support Waldo, just like we support Hawthorne, just like we support every community that doesn't have their own. That being said, I love your local fire department. And if we can help you all maintain it through, however we can help, we're here to do that. That's what we're here to do. If you all want to see this presentation, I'm happy to do it, but I really want to leave it to this commission to make that decision with their city.
I move that we have see the presentation. If it's ready to go, that's what my motion would be. This community wants to understand the pros and the cons, or whatever it is, the balance, that's all.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
For information only.
That's all, that's all it is information.
Okay, so we have a motion to hear the presentation. I have a second for information only. Chuck, do you want to speak to that, or I'm gonna put it out to the public to see if they want to hear it.
Well, it seems like we're getting into something that is between the commission and the citizens. And I was never informed of this tonight. Really, when we talk about fire fees, it's normally about a fee that the county charges, or the city might want to go up on their fee or something like that. But I never anticipated this tonight. I just thought we was going to get an update on fire services. Really, to be honest with you, I did not know anything about this. And so I'm just caught off guard. And I don't want to take over anybody's fire department at all. If they don't want us to, or they don't want us to come in, I don't want to do that. I want to do what the citizens want in this community. And so that's where I'm at. And, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about local politics in High Springs. I don't. And it's not my job to do that. You all are county citizens, and I all support all of our citizens in Alachua County. And I've always been a person who listened to the citizens. Those are the ones who put me in office, the citizens do, as a county commissioner. So I always listen. So and to hear a presentation, I didn't know that this was going to happen. And it's just my ignorance, maybe, but it was never brought to my attention. So
Okay, so I've got them. Thank you.
yeah, I hear the motion, but
Takes three of us to hear it, so let's see.
You know, and it's now 8:39, and now, and after that, and if there's a motion, there's gonna be another round of public comments. And then we have one other item left about community resource center updates and all of that stuff. And then we have to give, thank you all for having us and all of that stuff. So I'm just, wondering if, it's gonna be 9 or 10 o'clock. I'm just saying, possibly, I'm just saying. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We'll open up to public comment. If you just come up and give us a quick, do you want to hear the presentation or defer to your next meeting?
Thank you for your honesty. We're tired of kicking the can. Please present. Let us see what's out there. We all have a right to know. We all have a right to make decisions. Quit kicking the can. I don't know why this is part of the problem right here, is people don't know. I'm sorry, but I don't think you guys are educated enough to be up here. I don't. Let's just get it done.
Support the motion?
Please, yes.
Okay.
Present.
Can I make a conditional comment?
Well, let me just get the public comment, and yeah, we'll come back to you for discussion.
Yes,
Anyone else?
it was something that was missing. And you all said, we all got the same agenda. Now, whether you knew in detail about what we're doing, you did get the agenda. And the agenda did have fire services on it.
Yeah.
I just want to make that a blanket statement. You did have the agenda, and it did have fire services.
Yeah, well, and my comment is that it was never brought to my attention about this tonight. That's all I'm saying. That's
Yeah,
the only thing.
so a discussion of fire services is different than a presentation of the county replacing the fire department. And I think that's the misunderstanding. And I appreciate our staff being prepared, but certainly this commission did not have on the agenda and had no intention of having on the agenda of the county showing you what it would be to replace your local department. Anyone else want to speak to this motion before we bring it back? Okay. All right, Commissioner, all those in favor of the motion, any further discussion? Do you all have any comments to our motion?
Yeah, I just want to say that we have offered all our municipalities access to our staff for information and education. And the reason the chief is here tonight was for that, to share the information. And I don't know why you all didn't know about this that's going on in High Springs. Generally speaking, when we know that there are issues in the municipalities that are financial, we know about it.
I didn't say I didn't know that they were having financial difficulties or that they were having conversations about services to cut. What I'm talking about is that I didn't know that there was going to be a discussion tonight about the possibility of the county taking over fire services for High Springs. That was never told to me in any way, shape, or form prior to about an hour before this meeting. And at that point, I had not seen any information about what that might cost or look like. And I think that, that may be our fault. We may need to set up agenda reviews for these joint meetings so that we have a better understanding of what's going to be on the agenda and in detail what's going to be presented, but it's never been an issue. When fire services has been on the agenda, it's been fire assessments or a discussion of the mutual aid agreements that we have and how those are working. And sometimes it's about equipment or in-kind services that are needed. We've never had a situation where, unless it was very specific, like with lacrosse, or certain places where we've had a situation where it's actually been on the agenda and we've had to back up and the information ahead of time.
Mr. Chair, the chief's presentation is not about taking over services in High Springs. He was simply asked to have information available, if requested, regarding how we do our fire assessment. So what that looks like when we assess people for fire, how we do calls for service, and so how that would equate if we did that service or had that assessment within High Springs. It is not about taking over their department. It's simply information. Simply the information on how we manage calls for service and how we set forth the assessment. And I am mischaracterizing that, Chief. say, but that was what I understand is about to present to the board of goods to the county.
Mr. Chair, all this happened very quickly. They had a workshop last Thursday. I watched that workshop. I knew that they wanted to hear something from us. I actually, in my slide deck, have one slide and then questions. Because it's the one slide I have talks about the, what the fee, what our proposed fee is for the next couple of years to pay them. Because I didn't know what to expect after that. So I prepared a presentation that if the city commission wanted to hear what fire services would look like, if we assumed control over High Springs, what that would look like and how it would be paid for.
And fair enough.
That's it, but there's no recommendation in there.
Okay.
There's actually a blank slide, and then after that, I didn't know what would happen next.
We just
So-
found out before you
Yeah.
had to do it, so.
This is a hell of a last meeting for me as your fire.
Well, Chief, what I have heard is the motion is to provide information. I'm always up for providing information to my colleagues, well, citizens. So all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have motions unanimous. Back to you for your motion. I think you can just pass it to you're about to hear.
Okay, so we need to.
Most of the second, just do it.
All right,
Do it right now.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
You are recognized to present information.
Thank you, and I will try to make it quick. I can start off by saying that what we were going to communicate with the city manager and the fire chief was a 2-year agreement. The cost per call right now is $865.50. So far, the first 2 quarters of this year generated, our expense has been almost $181,000. Estimated annual for this fiscal year will be $362,000, which is quite a bit more than what we actually anticipated it being based upon the movement of Station 21. We believe the Station 21 really had an impact. We presented that last year about this same time, and that has not made an impact. The call load in the unincorporated area continues to increase. Therefore, we've used High Springs services almost just as much as we did last year.
So that's the estimated annual cost that we will be paying to High Springs.
For FY26. And what we are proposing in our work with ACM Crosby in the budget office is a 2.1% increase to the cost per call methodology. And we are asking for a 2-year agreement. The first year would be the 2.1%, the second year would be flat.
$369,000 for the next year. Okay.
That was my question slide. We'll skip that. A little bit of Alachua County Fire Rescue. There's been a lot of question about that I watched last time in the last meeting, so I wanted to cover a little bit about that. 384 employees, 336 are in operations. We have facilities all throughout Alachua County. We have a fire training center. We're getting ready hopefully to break ground on a 6-story fire ground training center. 17 fire and EMS stations across the 963 square miles. We actually operate at 18 locations, including the Newberry station. Just a generalized map of our station locations throughout the county. We do have municipal partnerships with quite a few departments or quite a few municipalities within Alachua County. City of Alachua came on board in the late 80s. They were the first city that we assumed services in. And then the city of Archer in 2004, city of Hawthorne in 2009, city of Waldo was in the same year, 2009. Town of Micanopy was just 2023. It was fiscal year 24 that we assumed services. What High Springs is going through is not unique to High Springs. Fire departments are expensive. And we're seeing more and more across the state of Florida struggle in keeping the one fire station fire department in the small towns afloat. The equipment is expensive. I think the manager pointed that out earlier with the twice the price now for fire engines, twice the price for ambulances. Labor is expensive, and so it is an expensive business to be involved in. A little bit about fire operations. I already talked about how that fire operations is funded. We have 10 ALS engines, 1 ALS Quint, I say ALS, Advanced Life Support, 1 ALS Heavy Rescue. we cross-staff our units, and so we will have, for example, Station 21 has an engine, a brush truck, and a tanker. Depending on the call type, it depends on what apparatus they take. And so all that has been worked out in a methodology, so the crews know exactly what apparatus to respond in. Our minimum staffing level for our fire engines and our fire stations are 3 personnel, a lieutenant, a driver operator, and a firefighter. At least one of those individuals is paramedic certified, so they can do advanced life support procedures. We're a little unique. We're not an urban fire department. We're a rural suburban fire department. So all of our fire engines carry extrication equipment. We've gone to battery operated tools for that. And so it's a lot less space. And so all of our units have that extrication equipment on it. That's an important thing to note when you're talking about rural response. Our fire engines respond to about 15,000 incidents a year, 17,000 responses in those 15,000. Oftentimes there are 2 engines sent to 1 call depending on the call type. Our EMS operations, we were formed in 1974 as an EMS agency, Alachua County EMS Service. In 1985, we became a fire department. We started placing fire engines in service. The first one was in Jonesville. We expanded from there. 16 advanced life support rescue units, 5 peak load transports, staffed with a minimum of 1 paramedic or 1 EMT each. We're really proud of our CAS accreditation, which is our certificate accreditation for our ambulance service and EMS, one of 190 in the nation to have that. As you know, we have a mobile stroke transport unit. We transport about 36,000 patients a year through our EMS services. We do have a lot of other services that are within Alachua County Fire Rescue. We have our emergency management division there for hurricane preparedness. They do a lot of hazard analysis throughout the county through the jurisdictions that we're responsible for in covering. Our fire prevention division is becoming more and more robust as we took on Micanopy and some of the school board functions that we've been working on in the last year. But they're involved in all plans reviews when it comes to commercial plans reviews, but also development reviews. And so we have to make sure that when a new development's going in, we have the proper hydrants, the location of those hydrants, proper water supply, those types of things. And so they're heavily involved in that. We do a lot of fire inspections afterwards. We worked with the city of High Springs during one period of time to provide fire inspections up here. And so we do that. We have a fire rescue community health program that is becoming more and more robust. I think you're going to see something in the budget for that. So that is continuing to improve and become enhanced. That would be offered through wherever our jurisdiction falls. Public safety radio system, we are the management group. We own, the county owns, and Fire Rescue operates the public safety radio system. We also have medical billing, and of course we have admin services that help support us, all those things. We have some specialized teams. Last year we were state recognized as a type 1 TRT team, technical rescue team. It's part of our USAR ramp that we've done. So we can do trench rescue, high angle rescue. We have about just under 60 individuals that received all of that training. So a really robust program that we continue to enhance. Our UAS team with our drones, we have SWAT paramedics that we partner with ASO, Gainesville Fire Rescue, and GPD. That's a 4-entity partnership agreement that we're in. That's become a new program as of a couple of years ago. Our MARC team, which is our mobile antenna radio communications team, is a state asset. Of course, we have our peer support team and our canines. Can't forget the canines. So if there were to be an opt-in to fire rescue, if the city decided that they wanted the county to have fire services provided by the county and the county board wanted to move forward with that, our fire assessment is based on 2 tiers. There's a flat tier of $132.47 for every piece of land, right? $132.47. That is the flat fee that is charged in a fire assessment. And then there's a tier 2. The tier 2 is based upon the value of the improved parcel, regardless of it being a residential property or a commercial property. They all pay based upon the value of it, and it's just value that the property appraiser comes up with on an annual basis. And so that is what formulates our fire assessment. And it was implemented originally in 2017. That's when we started it. Since then, we've had one modest increase, And then last year, we had to do a redistribution of it because tier one is based upon the amount of parcel lands that you have throughout your jurisdiction. And then tier two is based upon the value of all that. And it has to be balanced from an availability point of view to a response point of view. And we use a company called Stantec. Stantec is our consultant that does that. That's a whole different presentation. It's a very complicated formula that's involved in that. So it's based upon what you as a municipality or county want to generate in the amount of funding. And then they use the percentages to offset this, to develop these two flat rates that you have. Our look at the city of High Springs under our assessment would be a revenue generation of about $1.36 million is what our fire assessment would generate here.
Chief,
Now-
now, you did this Friday, Monday, how confident are you in that number? That's a pretty quick.
Cheryl's pretty confident. Cheryl did it. Does that make you feel better?
Yes, okay, I didn't know Cheryl did it, okay, yes.
But, yes, sir, we would want to engage Stantec
I was about
before
to
we
say,
move
that's
further on anything. to
Yeah,
make sure
that's
that these numbers are
preliminary.
correct. It is a preliminary, yes. I know that there was a lot of discussion in your workshop about the different prices that we charge per value of residence or commercial structure. And so we wanted to have this here, $100,000 improved value. So tier one would be the parcel, the tier two would be the amount of improved value. So $100,000 property is $278 is what we are building for that. You can see that it goes up to $400,000, that's a $714 fire assessment fee that person pays for that valued home. You can pretty much count on every $50,000 increase in value is the $72.80, just to give you an idea.
And Chief, for those people at home, they take their trim notice, they have the land value, then they have the improved value, it's the improved value.
Correct, it is the improved value.
And you all, I presume they will have access to this presentation, so when you have your workshop or your discussion with your citizens, that's how that's calculated.
Now, as compared to what the city of High Springs currently does, City of High Springs, to my understanding, has a flat residential fee that they charge and has a square footage fee based on commercial property. And so there is a difference in the methodology of how those funds are generated between the two. Our fire assessment is value-based. It's considered the least regressive type of fire assessment that is out there. It's based upon the value of the improved parcel. So those that have a larger home with a higher value pay more for fire assessment than those with a less value. That was very important to the board in 2017. And so our consultant really has worked very hard to make sure that our fire assessment holds up in court if it should ever be challenged. There are some exemptions that Alachua County has adopted for the fire assessment fee. There's a financial hardship that we have individuals that protect in so that they don't pay the fire assessment. 501c3s are not included in the fire assessment fees. They have to be accounted, but they don't pay for the fire assessment. And then 100% disabled veterans are exempt from the fire assessment fee. Our staffing, county operating station is, as I said, 3-person staffing, 3 lieutenants, 3 driver operators, and 7 firefighters. We have a staffing factor that we include. There may be only 9 people at that station across 3 days, but we have to hire more people to cover their vacancies, vacations, sick leave, injuries, and things like that. If the conversations that I had, that we had, staff level to staff level, modeling what was done in Micanopy would be to assume ownership of the property, the station, the equipment. Estimated recurring costs for the county is about $1.7 million to operate a 3-person fire station. Our ISO is ISO of 3. That was a quick.
Questions from my commission, and then we'll.
So, Chief, can you just talk about one thing? And you talked about we're a rural suburban level of service, not an urban level of service. I think that's really important for people in municipalities to understand when they opt into our service, because it's one thing when you're small, like we are now, like you all now are now, but as you grow, like in Alachua, we're having challenges because Alachua is making decisions in their zoning to go up more and more stories and to build bigger and bigger, and that requires an urban level of service, as I understand it. It requires bigger engines with ladders and things that we don't typically staff. So can you just very briefly talk about suburban, rural versus urban level of service and what that means?
So our fire engines are equipped to respond to really a rural or suburban level of response, meaning that they carry equipment on there that you wouldn't normally see in an urban environment, right? We carry, not being too jargonish, but we carry 3-inch hose. We do a thing called a rural hitch. We use our water tanker. We make sure that we can get water to a place. We have dump tanks on our water tankers because we oftentimes go to areas that they don't have hydrants. And so we have equipment on our fire engines that you don't normally see in an urban environment. We have one ladder truck in Alachua County. And it was first put in service, I believe, in 1992 on Fort Clark Boulevard, because the county was growing vertical in that area and commercial in that area. And the city of Gainesville their boundaries, I think, was almost near 43rd Street at the time, and they were very far east. And so we covered all of North Florida Hospital, the mall, all that area, those apartment complexes all around the area. And so the county years ago invested in equipment because that was really more of a suburban level of service that was turning into rural. We have seen that taking place in the city of Alachua. I've had numerous discussions with staff level discussions back and forth. We just had one the other day with their new city manager to talk about the need of a ladder truck in that area. And so that's basically the differences that we have.
I just wanted to point that out because I think as high schools grow, like those are things that are gonna need to be in the budget considerations for the city commission regardless. That's not something that the county would be taking on in terms of a level. Like we're not gonna increase to an urban level of service pretty much regardless likely. So just wanted to bring that up because it is something that's starting to rub up against in some of the other municipalities that we serve.
Commissioner Wheeler?
No, I just thank you very much, and thank you, board. This is his last meeting here. It's my last meeting here too, so I appreciate you all accommodating that concern for this community.
Always happy to accommodate Commissioner Wheeler. Okay, Chuck, you have anything?
I have anything.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, over to you.
Commissioner comments?
Yeah, Chief, the estimate of 1.36 million, was that a total for the assessment or that was extra on the assessment?
That would be what the city limits of
Would
High Springs
generate.
would generate.
Okay.
And that, again, that is an estimate.
Right.
Chief, I want to thank you for that. That was a fantastic presentation, one I wish we would have had at our workshop last week. I'd love to get a copy of that so I could run those numbers and put them all together. Thank you. You've done an amazing job.
Thank you,
Mayor, I have one question, please. Chief, you listed the exemptions. I don't see on the exemptions churches. Do churches pay a fire assessment fee to the county?
Churches are considered 501c3s.
Gotcha.
And
Thank
so there's,
I believe my concerns would be with us having a discussion of this on our next meeting. I don't like the fact that our citizens pay for our trucks and we just gonna turn them over to the county. They've paid that with their local tax dollars. I know why, but I don't like that idea, and that's the process, I get it. So I appreciate what you gave. Now, it's out here, we gotta make decisions. I thank you for it. But I would like to touch on one thing. Some of the citizens were talking about our community firefighters. As growing up as a child, I've spent many a holiday meal in the city of Gainesville, climbing on fire trucks, sliding down the brass poles that are non-existent anymore. I'm sure my dad's firefighters didn't appreciate fingerprints on everything. But even the county firefighters, what they have to go through, they're all quality people. I know some retired county firefighters. They're wonderful people. I grew up with some of them because their dads worked in the city of Gainesville and they grew up in the county as a firefighter. I have special ties to the fire department just because of growing up in this environment. I've seen my mom play softball, fire department sponsored. My dad played softball. So it is a tight-knit group, whether it's city, county, or even our town. And I'm saying our town because I guess I offended some people saying this is my town. And Commissioner Grunder and Andrew Miller here grew up in this town. We take personal pride in it because of us being here all these years. It's all our town. So don't get offended if we say it's our town. We just grew up here. We drove on these streets as kids, chased after girls in this town. But it's small town atmosphere. And I remember my dad saying when I started driving, he said, I'm gonna know if you screw up because my name in the city of Gainesville and the police department, it was small town back in them days. I'm gonna know it before you get home. And that's just the way hometown is here in High Springs. Small community, everybody knows everybody. You gotta be careful if you even kin to everybody. But we have a terrible decision to come up with, whether it affects our citizens by tax dollars, raising fees. And I've noticed some of the fees that you were saying that our assessments would definitely go up if the county was to take control. And I know if we stay where we're at, we have the ability to raise our fire assessments and we would be in control of our own department. But it will only work if we manage our other departments' budgets as well. Just raising a fire assessment to keep our fire department here is not going to fix our problem. We know that. So it's going to take all departments to have to reduce budgets. And I'm sure you deal with that every day in your line of profession, as well as the county commissioners have to deal with the budgets. And I understand y'all's concerns of not wanting to listen to this until you heard it first. So I just want to.
We heard it together.
Yes. I just want the citizens to know it is a gut wrenching thing we're having to sit up here and listen and deal with, because even though I grew up in the fire system, you have 2 police officers here. We have to put our emotions out of the decisions we have to make. We're trying to be level-headed and even keel here to come up with a solution for our town. Again, I say our town. I got to make sure I'm not saying my town. But I take pride in living in High Springs. I met my wife in this town, and Commissioner Grunder and Andrew Miller growing up here. We have so many connections here. So for those that didn't grow up here, you have to understand where we are. It's in our heart, High Springs. I mean, I don't know if some of you know, we used to call this High Rock. Yeah. So give us a break. I go home and I wake up in the middle of the night wondering, what decision am I going to make? Because I've been told this week that, hey, we'll raise the taxes, we'll pay it. Well, that's well and fine, but like I said last week, what about those people that are here that are alive today? Their parents here grew up here. Their grandparents grew up here. Do we run them out of town, or do we force them to move in with their children because they can't afford to buy medicine or groceries? I want the fire department here, and I want the police department here, and I want them to go to my parents' house when they are needed. I want them to come to my location when they're needed. And to go outside the city limits, I'm selfish. I want my people to stay here. I don't want them to go out of the county or into the county, but I understand it is a joint venture. It's a joint effort to protect everybody. And I get that. So even the numbers you presented are much better than what we thought was going on last year. And I'm grateful to see that number. But I just want to clarify, all firemen are wonderful people. Well, you got some that are not, just like any other individual. We're all good folks. We're just trying to do the best we can to get through every day. And again, Chief, congratulations on your career, and I hope you do well moving forward.
Thanks, sir.
All right, we want to thank you for your presentation. We got some hard decisions to make, so we will make those. Our next meeting.
Okay, so Chief, thank you. Mayor Miller, I know I'm losing one commissioner, and I know Chuck, I know you have to go shortly. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda that we're taking action on. But I think that was an important thing that you all needed, so I'm glad we could accommodate, and I appreciate the citizens and their comments. All right, so the next item, I believe, is your item, community resource update, and then the last item will be our item, which will be the High Springs Club.
So we put this on the agenda, the county, we talked in the past about a community resource center out here. And, we wanted to know if there was any continuation of any conversation that you wanted to have as far as updates about getting a community center, resource center out here.
You don't, no presentation?
No.
Yeah.
So this is just for the continuing, when we set the agenda, was to continue the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can speak for our commission. I know that community resource centers are really important from the county commission, that they are in the community and they are unique to the community they serve. So we obviously support what you all are doing, and I know the Children's Trust, I serve on that board, actually funds a good portion of the community resource centers around the county, and so I'm in favor of continuing those discussions and all agree?
Yeah. Do you feel like there's, Mr. Chair, if this community feels like it's a helpful thing and it's doing what it's supposed to do, doing what we think it's supposed to be doing?
That was a quick item.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just clarify, there's no city-county partnership on a community resource center. That's already happening elsewhere, so I think the conversation is essentially finished. And we're just kind of putting the bow on that? Okay, thank you.
All right, next item is the High Springs broadband update, and we've got Ms. Donna Pepper. Donna, thank you for hanging out for that long period. We added Ms. Bradford to the agenda after she gave us a great presentation of the county. Broadband is, we view it as a utility, essential. And for those citizens that don't have access to high-speed broadband, it's obviously hard for them. And so with the ARPA money that we got, we put, I believe, 15 million total countywide. And one of the areas that we can focus on is High Springs. And so, Robert, with that, you're up.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. My name is Donna Bradford, and I am with Alachua County. As Chair Cornell mentioned, the Alachua County Rural Broadband Project began a couple of years ago, and it's funded through the American Rescue Plan Act funds that was received during the COVID era. We had identified 4 different geographic project areas around the county where high-speed internet was either unavailable or it was underserved. So think back to the old dial-up days. That was what some of our residents were facing. So through that, we identified 4 geographic areas. We bid it out. In the case of Alachua County, Kinetic won all 4 of those bids, and they were available to do a presentation.
And Kinetic is Windstream.
Windstream, yes.
Yes, Windstream.
Yes. And I will use those terms interchangeably because I wrote my team on Windstream here at High Springs. So.
If you have it, you know it. If you don't have it, you don't.
So just to reference the geographic areas, Project Area A is considered East Waldo, and the Earlton area, Project Area B is the Island Grove area. So I'm not going to be focusing on those for purposes of tonight's presentation, but I'll go over Project Areas C and D, which are all in the Northwest Quadrant of Alachua County. And as you can see, I know the coloring is a little off, but the engineering and the environmental is essentially completed. Permitting is pretty much 99% completed in the Northwest area, and placement is above 95% completed in the Northwest area, and services are available. Currently, basically what we say services, that means that the fiber has been placed into the right of way in front of the identified residences in about 82% of the identified residences in the Northwest Quadrant. To go into specific details, specifically on project areas C and D, what we're calling the northwest corner is those areas. This right here is downtown High Springs. So the northwest corner is those areas that are north and east of the downtown High Springs area. Right now, there's fiber laid to approximately 1,500 of those identified residences, and about 600 remain. Kinetic or Windstream anticipates all of those will be completed by the third quarter. Project Area D is considered the High Springs area. Again, for reference, downtown High Springs would be right here. And these are all of the residential rural areas that are going to be served by high-speed internet. Right now, the fiber is laid in about 1,700 residential residences, and about 125 remain for Project Area D. So huge progress has been made in these areas. This is a combined look. All of the green dots are those areas where fiber has already been laid. The blue dots are the areas that remain where fiber will go in. Again, Kinetic is expecting fiber to be in by the third quarter. And I know some of you are going, well, what about right in downtown High Springs? There was nothing said about downtown High Springs. That's the area highlighted here in gray. Downtown High Springs is already served by gig speed level internet service providers. So they were not considered part of the rural broadband project that we initiated 2 years ago. So far, let me read some of their statistics, and this would be for the entire Alachua County area. About 1.9 million feet of fiber has already been placed in the 4 project areas, and that's over 360 miles of fiber construction that's been completed. 4,000 of our approximately 4,800 identified rural broadband areas that were unserved or underserved. So about 4,000 locations now have fiber to their right of way, and we are expecting the remainder of those to be completed by the third quarter. And we have 8 trainings that we're partnering with Kinetic on, or Windstream, over the next couple months. I think we're tentatively looking at June 11th to have a session here in High Springs or Alachua, City of Alachua area, one in the central portion of the county, and then one in the southeast part of the county, having to do with digital literacy. And then we have 4 more that we're looking at planning in the summer months on different topics. In fact, we are looking at partnering with them to bring in some actual equipment and actually make it a kids informative day so that the parents and the kids can come in and learn a little bit about that technology. And then I did provide a web hosting from Kinetic on the cost per month to get, in the middle it's 1 gig, so it's about $59 a month for 1 gig speed to the house, but certainly you can call Kinetic on their website for your specific residential address to see what service levels are offered by them. So with that, I will open it up if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bradford. The Commissioner's huge investment. Really, really excited for the citizens of High Springs and those that have not had this fiber to their home. Any questions for Ms. Bradford?
Yeah, and just to follow up, it's about a $12 million investment for those rural, underserved and unserved areas to get the fiber in there. And it is a partnership to get that in there.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a question for you all, but are you all looking for the commercial side? Are they looking to do anything on the?
Most of the commercials in your downtown area and it's already served.
Because I know we had some issues with commercial not being strong enough to house certain companies. It was a company that was interested in moving here, but we didn't have strong enough internet services for them, so they were not able to open up a business here.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that the scope of this project was specifically for the rural communities, the unserved and underserved residences. And, kind of thinking about, we used to consider internet to be a luxury. Now it is an essential service for education, for employment, for economic vitality, and for social connections. So those people who were still on dial-up speeds, it's really addressing those.
I want to thank you. This is fantastic. And I'll make out one thing here is that in a world where everything keeps doubling and tripling cost-wise, this has actually brought high-speed internet affordably to High Springs. Because the prices I pay now for internet and the service I get are half the cost of what I used to pay for. I think I got 15 when I first moved here, or when I first moved into my house. When I first moved here, I'm not a dial-up computer. My mom and dad's that they kept answering the phone on. knocking me off the old interwebs.
Yes,
But no, thank you, this is awesome.
Thank you. This is very competitive. I agree. I went to a satellite provider because I don't actually have any wires to where I live in the unincorporated area of High Springs. And so to have this at half the price of what I'm paying currently is a
Fantastic.
huge
Yeah, it's
benefit.
fantastic. It's really a game changer, you know, when you really think about it.
But yeah, so it's 4,000 are eligible and can contact now, and we'll have 4,800 served by the end of this contract.
Okay, Ms. Bradford, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Okay, we are concluded with our agenda. Finally, we are now at public comment, which is an opportunity that we give citizens to come up and speak to this board about anything that's not on the agenda. We'd love to hear from you. If you have something on your mind that you'd like to share, come on up, introduce yourself. And we have 3 minutes. You all do 3 minutes? Okay. Nobody did 5 minutes. Give them a day, another go. 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you.
Nellie.
Marilyn Malowitz, Jefferson. I actually am in Fort White. But I would like to say 2 things. Broadband, it'd be great if we could give every person who does the last shovel into that dirt as far as burying those things to give them wildflower seeds. There you go. So that would be nice. Bring those back, those empty places. The other thing I'd like to share is heirs property. So I think with both this group, because I did meet people, I'm working with an individual in downtown High Springs that did not pay his taxes in several years. He inherited this land, that's heirs, Heirs apostrophe, comes from, he inherited it from his family. And over the years, you know, taxes go up, he lives downtown, and he couldn't afford his taxes. The city took the the county took the property away, went to the county records, went here, met upstairs with your office people. He was unable to get his property back to pay his taxes so far. We were all doing this last year. And then it moved forward, and then I learned a lot about heirs property. I went to Aisha Solomon's event last year. Bring that to you all. Bring that event to the city of High Springs. You have so many rural people in this area that are losing their properties because of this. These are heritage lands. These are lands that were inherited generationally, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 generations. And property values go up and up and up. And they can't afford these taxes anymore. There should be a not-for-profit somehow arranged where they can help offset these taxes that they are now responsible for, even though this is heritage land. It's actually, when I really think hard about it, kind of leans into reparations, okay? So there's a way that we can get our taxes paid on these individuals that are heritage lands and keep them in their families. That's the intent. That would really help out the constituents and the citizens that live here that are 5, 6, 7 generations and are facing these extraordinary taxes on their larger lands. Usually they're larger tracts of lands. These are those lands that end up on the property, on the courthouse steps, getting sold out from underneath them. So I think that that's something that really should be brought to this town. Bring Aisha in. She's your tax collector, right? Tax appraiser, sorry. Property appraiser. She has a great presentation. She has lots of material. It would really benefit this community tremendously to know how to deal with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Chief. Thank you for that. And Aisha is really super. County helps fund that education program.
And also John Powers has been really good about trying to make sure that people have the ability to pay, even, they're very creative payment back then.
All right, anyone else? Well, yeah, come on up, introduce yourself. Thanks for being here.
Sean Coles, the Heart of High Springs, and I appreciate you all being here. It's been a long night, so I promise I'll be quick. Good evening, commissioners, Mr. City Manager, and members of the public. My name is Sean Coles, and I'm here as the president of the Heart of High Springs. First, thank you all for being here tonight. It was a long night, but very informative, and it's great to have you all here. The Heart of High Springs is a nonprofit that brings people, ideas, resources together to support projects that celebrate our history, strengthen our economy, promote tourism, and help revitalize downtown High Springs. One area where we hope to be helpful is the future of the Priest Theater. For many years, the Priest Theater has been part of High Springs' identity and memory. We also believe it is a very important part of this town's future. As you know, the Priest Theater has received more than $1 million in state preservation funding for its purchase, stabilization, and roof repair. That funding includes requirements related to the building's use and renovation. We understand that there are difficult decisions ahead. We also understand that the city is facing real financial pressure, and we respect the weight of those decisions. To help inform the conversation, the Heart of High Springs went ahead and commissioned a professional feasibility study. We hired Johnson Consulting, a nationally recognized and independent consulting firm, to evaluate what may or may not be possible for the Priest Theater, financially, operationally, and as a community asset. We've now received a draft of that feasibility study, and we're currently reviewing it. Our request tonight is simple. The Heart of High Springs would welcome the opportunity to present the findings to the city, the county, and of course to the community in the very near couple of weeks. Our hope is that the study helps support a thoughtful conversation before any long-term decision is made about the building's future. That conversation should protect the state's investment, honor the community's memories, and recognize that the city should not be asked to carry a financial burden it cannot afford. As a volunteer nonprofit, we are ready to help bring useful information, community support, and potential partners to the table. We look forward to working with you to explore a responsible path forward. And again, thank you all for being here tonight and for all of your service. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Colson. Thank you very much. Next speaker. Come on up.
Hello again.
Jessica, right?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to close out. My kids are at home, so I don't get much time. I do want to thank everybody, county, city. I understand that this didn't kind of go what you were expecting and all of that, but for us, this has been a fight that we've been fighting for a long time. It's not just the firefighters, it's the families, it's everybody. I know that tensions are high. It seems that we feel like sometimes we get a decision and then it keeps getting brought back up, and it does feel a little heavy on the fire side, which is why we feel a little bit like we're being bullied, unfortunately. And that's not to say anything, Mr. Bloodsworth, you've been very compassionate this whole time, and I really do thank all of you guys, and women. We're ready to find out what our future holds. And we just want to know that everybody is taking into effect that it's not, we understand it's money, we understand that. We just hope that we can find other routes. We need to find another route because this isn't the answer. But I really do thank everybody. And I thank everybody else that has showed up because, man, family, because that's really what it has been. But thank you.
Thank you.
To everybody.
Thank you for coming in.
I know you're ready to go home, but George Tatum.
George, right? Yeah, George.
Say your name again.
George Tatum, citizen of High Springs off 160th. I want to say thank you for your transparency and allowing us to understand that you didn't know, you can only know what you know and you can't know what you don't know. And it seems like some of you, as my dad would say, were blindsided with information along with us. But the biggest thing I want to say thank you is letting the chief talk, because he showed that our men and women are actually working just as hard as what a lot of the citizens believe they are doing. And that their hard work shouldn't be just thrown to the side just because of numbers or budgets. We got to look at the whole picture. You made me want to come to county commission meetings to learn more and get more involved instead of just with the city. I deal with several, I've known several for a long time. Some are neighbors that I didn't even know were a neighbor. Thank you. Thank you for spending the extra time. Thank you to the young lady who had to leave. Knowing those numbers now puts more pressure on them to make a better decision or the right decision, because the numbers that were being put out there, I don't want to say weren't truthful, but weren't as transparent as they should have been. And the monies that are going to be coming in because of their hard work, their blood, sweat, and tears, missed birthdays, so on and so forth, just like Alachua County does, My father-in-law did with Hillsborough County for 31 and a half years. I appreciate you guys. I've never been to the joint meeting. This was an eye-opener for me. Thank you again.
Thank you, George. And the county meets the second and fourth Tuesday of every month. And we have public comment, time certain at 12 noon. You are welcome, and we would love to have you at any and all of them.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Next week.
Hey, good folks. Brian Langston, I'm a city resident and retired firefighter, but I'm not talking about the fire department. I had the county people here and the city people, and we discussed the canoe outpost. I was part of the canoe outpost. I worked for Parks and Rec. The previous wild space and public places, I believe it was 2223, before the new vote. That's where the canoe outpost, that was the funding came from. So that will be where you could start and figure out where it came from. And I also know that there were some caveats as far as the space in between the river and the actual property. That wildlife refuge was specifically set up so it couldn't be developed and bought. So that was some of the strings that she was talking about, because I was really integral in that, because we did it for a specific reason that they couldn't sell it. So if you can find a way to, appease the Swanee River Debt and Swanee River Management, all that stuff, you can start at the 2023 and find it out. The other thing with the rails and trails, I was also part of that with the Parks and Rec. We really looked at it hard. I know that in the past, the CSX has fallen apart. And one of the other things that we had an issue with is where the turntable is for our historic steam engine. It was a Superfund site. It is considered a very toxic area, and that was one of the reasons that we had to hang up. So if you guys start digging into that, that was one of the reasons we couldn't do it back when they did it, is because it was going to be an excessive amount of money to do a cleanup site. But other than that, it was one of the awesome ideas, because we were going to tie it in. We talked about going through around the Santa Fe Truss and bringing it into High Springs, into the brewery, so you could actually get to the river. I mean, everybody's using them already. They're side by sides and going to the brewery and stuff, so they were going to bring it in for the businesses and the restaurants. So I was just going to give you guys like a time frame when we start looking, because that was when we actually got the money for it. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Brian. Next speaker, please. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. All right, next up, we've got closing comments from our county. John, thank you for hanging in there with us.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you all for having us, and thank you.
And I'll just say, thank you so much. This is my last group, my last combined meeting, county. I'll be coming off in November. There'll be 6 people running for my seat. You guys, pay attention. 3 of those people are coming from High Springs, and that's really exciting to me. 2 of them are in this room right now. So you'll all pay attention. I've worked with all of these people, and I think very highly. I've worked with 5 of them, and I think very highly of them. And I would make sure that whoever it is that comes into my seat knows who's important and what's important to me. I worry about the priest. I'm anxious to get that up. The outpost was something that I helped orchestrate, right? All you guys out there. So it was something, I wanted to make sure that High Springs had jewels in their crown that you could actually shine up and present to the world. So, moving forward, I've had the pizza there, but it's at Prohibition Pizza. I've been, we worked really hard to make sure that we had the brewery up and running. The Serendipity is a jewel there. Baram's put a lot into this community. So, there are a lot of really exciting things going on here. And whoever is coming on in my seat will make sure they know about what you all are doing here and who the key players are. And so I just want to thank you for letting me serve you for 8 years. It's been real exciting to watch what's happened in that amount of time. I tell people I may be a lame duck right now, but I ain't a dead duck. So I've got a few more months to get into trouble. If you guys, the commissioners, find me, okay? You see, I busted these people tonight. Y'all, you heard me, right? So just let me now I can help you because I've got a few more months yet to get into trouble and I'm not afraid to do it.
I can attest. You ever come downtown, I'll show you a sign she gave me, something about a true friend doesn't say, I'm sorry you're in jail, they're sitting there next.
What a great time it was.
That's right. So, commissioners, and thank you for having us at High Springs. It's always a pleasure. You know, we covered a lot. You got to see what the county's thinking with regards to the property tax initiative. I think we got some direction on the rail trail, which was great, and we were able to communicate some information about how our fire service assessment fee works. You know, it's the most progressive. If your house is worth less, you pay less. If your house is worth more, you pay more. It's certainly something that you all will have to deliberate with your community, and we'll be watching that closely, and we are here to help however we can. I do want to ask if my commission objects to referring Mr. Cole's request that they be able to present to, I think it would start with Jessica's group with the Tourist Development Department. Maybe present to them, and then maybe we could schedule some time before the commission.
No, absolutely. I'm chair of that board. You come on.
Yeah, so, all right, so Mr. Cole, thank you for that, and I know the priest has been a constant thing that we've been working on for the last couple of years. And with that, Commissioner, I really appreciate the opportunity to serve by your side. I know how much you care about your community, and we care about it as well. Thank you.
All right, we want to thank y'all for being here. We're gonna have city commission comments, starting with Commissioner House.
It has been a long night. I'm gonna have another booth, not tomorrow, but on the 22nd at the farmer's market. I've got a lot of numbers. If you ever want to go over them and know the reality, please come out. Give me an opportunity to speak to me instead of coming here and speaking at me. Before you make a judgment about me, come give it a shot. I'll be out there May 22nd, all day. I look forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you. I think we've said enough.
Mr. Mayor, most of my comments we've already addressed. I had 2 transportation-related questions that we're not going to be able to answer tonight, but I wanted to just put on your radar. You know, the county commission got the same email we did about concerns with backup on the 441 on exit 399 and 441 on I-75. I know it's a DOT issue, but it's real. Traffic is in the lane of travel, and you know you're coming over the rise and you may not see it. So I appreciate the county's response and bringing DOT into that conversation. And last year's meeting, the DOT was here to present for the possibility of a light at Post Springs Road in 2741. And I don't know if you guys have heard anything more on that.
I forgot. Yes, it's coming in this fall. They promised to do it before I leave office.
Is it going to, but have they committed to it being a
Yes.
light and not a roundabout?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A light, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I wanted to kind of put out there on your radar is I had the profound privilege of seeing the 14U High Springs Rec League volleyball team play Monday and Tuesday night of this week. The Mayor's Youth Council sponsors them, so I went and watched them, and they were phenomenal. We don't have in High Springs any place for these people to practice. We don't have a multi-purpose center. We need one desperately. Commissioner Wheeler, I wrote the word down here, techno-autism. The more we've got kids playing sports, the less we're gonna have to deal with techno-autism. And I don't know if the county is available to start an initiative to maybe sharing some wild spaces money with the city of High Springs, because we've all acknowledged that we've got some budget issues here. But we are in desperate need of something like that. And I don't know if that's something we could talk about over, maybe a 3-year plan, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there and see if there would be an opportunity for us to have a conversation about that. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being here, and thank you all for staying this late.
Again, I want to reiterate, thank you guys for coming. It's the first time I was able to be here. But as city commissioner concerns, I did want to share, and Commissioner Howell, I was hoping you were going to share maybe some results that you might have gotten from the other day, but I'll be willing to wait and hear them later. But I did get a couple of concerns or suggestions, and I want to run by our city manager and the fire chief, was brought to my attention that we go to the care center for non-emergencies and we don't charge for those visits. Is that something we can look at to help our fire department to be able to charge going to the care center, if that is the case, to help get people up that they can't possibly put their hands on, and we have to do it as a fire department to help generate revenue, or even just putting money back for our department for those things. And then another suggestion from a citizen was, they see us mowing grass when grass is not going right now. Mowing ditches and retention ponds. Is there something, would that save us any money? I don't have the answer to it. I told them I would relay, just like I said the other night. If you got suggestions, send them to me. These were the suggestions that were sent to me so far. I had one, you brought up something to do with DOT. For Chief Shepherd's department, I got people from Columbia County complaining coming out of Tractor Supply, they can't make a left turn to go back home. I know that's a DOT thing, but I don't know if you guys remember as McDonald's was coming in, they had an agreement with DOT. They were putting that piece in there between McDonald's and Tractor Supply for people to come out of there and make a left-hand turn to get out of there. And that was agreed upon, if I remember right. Somebody can correct me if they don't remember or do remember, that's what that was set up for people to make a left-hand turn out of Tractor Supply, right-hand turn out of McDonald's. So I don't know who can check on that, if that's a DOT thing or that's our, but people coming from Columbia County to go into Tractor Supply can't make a left turn to go back home. They gotta make a right-hand turn, do a U-turn, and I can tell you, as being a UPS driver for 30 years, that was not highly recommended, making a U-turn. I mean, we do have a turn lane to go into Winn-Dixie, and people would have to go in there. That's typically not how you want to operate, but if that's something we can look into doing. And then I have another suggestion, and it's even a personal concern of mine, is we know we're going to have to raise fire assessments to keep our fire department operational here. Because if the county takes over, if that was an option, it's definitely going up. I want to direct, if the other commissioners are on board with this, direct our city manager to come back to our meeting on the 28th to see if you can reduce the police budget by 15 to 20%. Commissioner Howe brought out the percentages. Typically, it's 20 to 30%. Our fire department is 21% of our budget, and the police is 43%. With those numbers, can we bring our police department down within that? Also by raising our assessment fees and have a happy medium to where we can keep both departments in our town and make it affordable and still be within control of our fire department and our fire assessment fee. I haven't tallied up. I think I did. If we, and Chief Peters can correct me, if we did increase our fee to $335 instead of the $250. I thought I had that figured down, but I have so many notes here that I have lost track of what that might have been. That has to offset a lot of money coming out of general fund if we go from $250 to $335. And I believe that's what we have it set at, the max, but we can go higher and still be under the county's methodology. Because after seeing some of those figures, what is a $400,000 home could be as much as $714 from, let's just say we controlled it at $335 or even $400. That's a whole lot better for our citizens to live comfortably somewhat. I still don't like the idea of raising because some people are still not going to be able to afford that. But that is a way of saving our both departments and keeping everybody here and reassuring our staff they're not going anywhere. So if you got something to add.
So I do. Here's a couple numbers for you. In High Springs, $280,000 value of a house, $250 assessment fee. Same $280,000 home valued in the county's $569.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that sticks out to me is High Springs still, their taxes are still higher.
Absolutely.
And that's a big problem. I mean, and what I said about the police department and being 43%, and I probably didn't carry it out. The idea, what I was trying to say is that, yes, it is 42.1%. The problem is that in 2017, our millage rate was 5.88. We had revenues coming in, we had new development coming in. Since then, our development, our growth has basically stopped. So we have no more. Our revenues are not, we're not increasing revenues as much as the cost of everything is increasing. So that's why the police budget is so high, 1,000%. Again, there's a lot of numbers. I didn't want to stay too much longer, but yeah, if there's a way for us to cut taxes, if we did go to the county for their services and we can maintain a level of service that is the same and cut $1.2 million from our budget, it's something that we got to think about. We're not going to get the same service from the sheriff's office. We all know that. That's just how it is. We'd still get a savings of $1.2 million. If we took the county's thing, assessment fee, it's instead of 169 fees, we get 1.36. So 1.6 million. Assessment fees are going to have to go up considerably more than $335. I don't think that's going to make a huge jump into to making the cuts that we need. The reason we have a couple other ones. We take 8% transportation budget and transfer it to general fund.
That's right.
So when my citizen David Lynch, LINCH, comes out and talks about saving the concrete streets, that's one of the reasons we can't do it. And when you're moving 310,000 out of sewer, 382,000 out of water, that number for the last 3 years has been the same.
That's right.
So there's no formula for it. We're just said this is the number.
That's right. Keep paying.
And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So when we complain, I don't know if you guys seen it. City of Lotswood just got some award for their drinking water. I want an award for our drinking water.
You're not gonna get it here because I
That's
bet you
what I'm
get your
saying.
plates.
If our water, if we're sending too much money out of water, that money is there so that we can fix our water infrastructure. That's the problem.
So are you on board with directing our city manager to try to see about reducing the police budget?
Yeah, let's do it. We'll see.
Okay, well, can I make a motion that I want to direct you to see if you could cut the police budget by 15 to 20%? Because our fire department can't cut anymore. We already know that. It's either go as it is or they go to the county. There's no cutting for them anymore. We know that. So I would like to make a motion that directs you to see if you could cut their budget by 15 to 20%. And let's start there. Just start somewhere. If folks are available and want to hang their hat on that right now. So I'll make a motion to direct you to cut the police budget by 15, 20%, see if you can do that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right.
Can I get a vote?
Sorry, yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Oh,
It's just directing Mr. Marshall.
Oh, aye.
To look at.
To cut the police budget by 15%.
Yeah, I was a yes or no.
yes. I'm looking into it, correct?
Just look at it.
Looking into it.
I guess I should ask that before.
Yes, that's what it was. No one knows how to get that Parker.
Last man up. Last man up.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I just want to thank you all for hanging in tight with us on tonight. Thank you to the county commission for coming out. I just want to tell you that the reason why the canoe outpost came up, we had a buyer that does the same thing, that could actually run the canoe outpost. So that was one of the strongest reasons why when I first set up here, I was put that out as a consideration because we had a buyer that could actually operate it as a canoe outpost. And
Did they buy the operation and you keep the land?
I don't even know if they're open to it, that's,
Okay.
you know, that was 2.5 years ago.
Oh, I see.
But, we're entertaining a motion to adjourn.